uptick from 136 points in July to 137 in August, the economic outlook remains optimistic. Bank of Africa notes that increasing confidence levels along with the expected changes in interest rates and improving consumer inflation levels could boost economic activity in the last few months of this year. Independent economist Elise Kruger says there's a strong correlation between confidence levels in the economy and transactions.
The confidence index is starting to react, I think, to a better economic environment. And, where we see that link is the higher the confidence levels, the more willing, for instance, a household would be to spend or a corporate to commit to fixed investment spending. So there's a definite positive correlation between higher confidence levels and higher economic activity. And I think, looking at the scenario with a load shedding reprieve, we've got clarity about our new government of national unity now after elections. So a couple of factors are contributing to higher confidence levels in the economy.
Defense Counsel Zandile Mshololo says it took several ballistic analysts to verify Colonel Chris Mangena's findings as the results from the bullets fired from the alleged Senzo Meyiwa murder weapon were inconclusive. Mangena linked the firearm seized from accused number 3 in the matter to the bullet found on the crime scene after firing several test bullets. 5 men are on trial at the High Court in Pretoria for the 2014 murder of the Bafana Bafana captain. Advocate Mshololo has grilled Chief Forensic Analyst Edward Sereo about insufficient markings on the test bullets.
The reason why the additional 2 analysts were asked to do the verification is because you had not reached an agreement and your report was inconclusive because you did not have sufficient individual striation to match with the exhibit.
That is incorrect. Mangena approached me alone and I did that verification alone. So I can only testify about my role alone in that matter.
And Mexico's Senate has given a general approval to a sweeping reform that would mean that all judges are elected by popular vote. Senators voted 86 to 41 in favor. The BBC's James Reid reports.
The judicial reform was proposed by the outgoing president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, whose left-wing Morena party controls both houses of Congress. He says electing judges will ensure they serve the people, rather than privileged elites. His opponents say it will make Mexico's judiciary vulnerable to political interference, corruption and intimidation by drug cartels. No other country elects all its judges. The vote went ahead in an alternative chamber after protesters stormed the Senate building.
The top story at 3 o'clock, Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says the department is considering pursuing a way of mediation instead of fighting medical legal cases in court. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhaleneli.
Coming up in your sports this hour, SA Rugby sends out warning about sold-out tests against Argentina, and Australia's Craig gets 12-month ban after cocaine arrest. I'll have more details on this and other sports stories at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
1 hour for the kids' school run, 8 hours at work, 2 hours preparing meals, and so much more. Sure. 24 hours is simply not enough to do it all. Luckily at UNISA, you don't need to find time for your studies. Anytime will do. Shape your future with the leading open distance e-learning university in Africa. Applications to study undergraduate qualifications at UNISA in 2025 are open. Visit unisa.ac.za to apply. UNISA, define tomorrow.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary.
BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, what for you drives the National Pulse today? It's a question I ask every single day because I'll tell you what, we get a very, very different answer every day. What was the big driver yesterday is clearly not the big driver today and will certainly not be the big driver tomorrow. So I think, okay, so we could have our own guesses about it, but I'll tell you now, it's pretty obvious. The big driver has got to be the position of the Government of National Unity, in particular with the two major players, the Democratic Alliance and the African National Congress. And I say that because the DA has issued a warning of sorts. My name is Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the National Pulse, 3 to 6 every single day. And if you're listening in the country, I want to know where you are. If you're listening around the world, I want to know where you are on live streaming. Share your location. Not literally, you know exactly what I mean. Take a picture. You can WhatsApp us 0614 104 107 with that picture, and also maybe add your comments too. But also you can watch us on live streaming, so you can physically watch me, all, you know, warts and all, if you get my point, and see the backstory of what happens in a studio as you're listening to the show. But also you can post on social media. So, you know, tweet as well as Facebook. Use the hashtag The National Pulse when you tag SAFM Radio, and you can certainly tag me, Ashraf Garda. So, yeah, welcome to the show. Lots to talk about. Let's get to the big issue then. The Democratic Alliance has warned President Ramaphosa not to sign the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, that's the Bella Bill, into law. They've cautioned that the bill in its current form is unacceptable as it has constitutional implications. The party has also warned that if Ramaphosa goes against their wishes, well, this will negatively affect the spirit of the Government of National Unity. There's just so much to come. In fact, John Steenhuisen, the leader of the DA, has issued a statement, and I'll tell you what, there's so much you can pick out from that statement that is a cause for concern, certainly for those who want that GNU to stick like glue, but also carries huge interest for those on the outside who are saying, you see, we told you so. These parties cannot get along. Okay, let's get then the thoughts of the DA National spokesperson, Willie Okam. Willie, appreciate your time. You are now connected to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Yeah, Ashraf, this is a huge problem that we all are facing.
Why is it a huge problem? Maybe just explain to us, what is it about this Bella Bill that so offends the DA?
All right. Firstly, it is the principle that when the Government of National Unity was formed, we made it very clear from the DA side that we are objecting to the Bella Bill in its current form, and I will get to that now. So what we are having here is, firstly, it's not a warning from the DA. It is a request from the DA for the President to follow the spirit and the letter of the agreement that was signed that formed this Government of National Unity. The President, in clause 19.3, it was made clear that there must be sufficient consensus on a number of critical issues. And it is clear that in this instance there is not sufficient consensus. We as the DA believe that the decision regarding schools must be made by the schools in consultation then with the department. But it must be in consultation and not after consultation. It is very important to distinguish between in consultation and after consultation. If it is after consultation, it means that the Department of Education in the various provinces can make a decision after they consulted with the different school governing bodies, and that cannot happen. It must be done in consultation so that it's a joint decision that's made, and that is what we are asking from the DA side.
Okay, so let's take first things first. I understand the point about the spirit of intent of a GNU, call it an MOU for want of a better word, right? But organizations and parties sometimes let slip regarding that. What then about the bill? And I'll go back to the bill first. That so offends the DA to the point where, as you said, it's not a warning, but it is a request. But it's a request that's significant enough for John Steenhuisen to say he hurriedly is going to try and push for a meeting with President Ramaphosa before Friday, which is when we expect the bill to be signed into law.
Ashraf, the DA made it very clear all throughout many years that mother tongue education for us is a non-negotiable. Whether it's Afrikaans or Setswana or isiXhosa, it doesn't matter. Mother tongue education must be protected. And this bill is taking away the right from school governing bodies to decide on that and giving that right to the department. The Department of Education in the various provinces should have rather concentrated over the many years that's gone by on building schools, but they have not done that. So mother tongue education is a non-negotiable. There are a number of other issues that we feel are issues that can be deemed as going against the Constitution, and we believe that the people closest to the community should be the people that makes decisions about that community. We can't have a central government with a central law dictating to a community what must go on and happen in that community. Each community differs from the other, so the needs in every community is not the same. And it is therefore very important that this right of school governing bodies must not be taken away, but that decisions must be made in consultation with the education department instead of after.
Right, I understand that. So you're saying that point, and I mean, let's be clear and honest, a large part of the DA constituency, right? I mean, it could be other language groups, but a large part could well be Afrikaans language groups, understandably so, right? And you certainly don't want to do anything that will alienate them. I mean, that's a given, right?
It is a given. Afrikaans is very important. I'm an Afrikaans-speaking person, and I would like my children to get educated in Afrikaans. But if I was a Zulu-speaking person or a isiXhosa-speaking person, I would have felt exactly the same. Okay. It is not about protecting the rights of Afrikaans as a language. It's about protecting the rights of mother tongue education. We see that we've got 80% of pupils in grade 4 that's not able to read and write for meaning. So if you can't read for meaning, one of the biggest reasons that came out is that it is due to a lack of mother tongue education, and that is what needs to be protected.
Okay, so this is an issue. You're saying now the power will be taken away from school governing bodies and will be decided at national level if this bill is signed into law. And this is an issue the DA raised as a fundamental issue before signing that letter of intent or statement of intent that made them a part of the GNU. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, we said from the beginning that we are opposed to this, and we also said from the beginning that there must be a dispute resolution mechanism in place when parties in the GNU does not agree on what is going to happen. We cannot have it that it is only the president with a specific minister and they drive it in their department. If there is a dispute like this one, there should be that dispute resolution mechanism that can proactively start to iron out the problems that there might be.
Okay.
To give you an idea here, Ashraf, the changes that we require that must be made to this bill, should the president send it back to the National Assembly. Mm-hmm. It's a few changes that can be made to this bill. The main essence of the bill when it comes to school nutrition and to grade R, etc., we are fine with that. So it's a few changes that can be made, and a lot of people, parties in the government of national unity, as well as public entities or organizations out there, will be satisfied if these small changes can be made. So it's not going to be a loss for the president should he return this to the
all right. Perhaps if I can push you very quickly to tell me then what are the changes that you are proposing?
Well, the changes are, as I said, is that we must protect the independency of school governing bodies, so that it must be done in consultation. That must be done, and that is also for homeschooling. We cannot have it that the homeschooling system and people representing them are not involved in this. So the main thing is to protect the rights of school governing bodies and not take that out of their hands to decide for their children, because they know what is best for their children, not the government or not a provincial government.
All right, so as it stands, what we understand is that bill will be signed into law on Friday. Right, now, your president, the DA president, John Steenhuisen, issued a statement saying, and I'm quoting, "If the president continues to ride roughshod over these objections, he is endangering the future of the government of national unity and destroying the good faith on which it was based." So here's my question to you. We don't really know what Ramaphosa, the President Ramaphosa, is going to say about Steenhuisen's request. But if he does not accede to that request for a postponement or refer it back to Parliament and goes ahead and signs it, then what? Then what about the DA-ANC relationship? What about the GNU?
Firstly, there is going to be a meeting between John Steenhuisen and the President, and we hope that Mr. Steenhuisen, our leader, will be able to persuade the President to send this back to the National Assembly. If he is not going to send this back to the National Assembly, it should not be a matter of the GNU now ends. We've got to protect this GNU. The alternative of the current GNU is a government of, well, I don't know if you can call it unity then, but a government between the ANC, EFF and MK, and that we know will be disastrous.
Okay, so what you're saying...
We've got to protect this
So
GNU.
what you're saying, to confirm, to allay any fears from others, there's no way the DA is going to pull out of the GNU. You can make noises, you can talk about riding roughshod, but you're not going to actually pull out of the GNU.
No, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that all parties in the GNU must now respect each other. We've said from the beginning that respect and collegiality is prerequisites for this GNU to work. We cannot act unilaterally. The President and the ANC must realize that they are not a majority party anymore. They're part of a government of national unity. And in that sense, he must look at the spirit and the letter of the intent letter that was signed when this government of national unity was formed.
I hear that.
It is the president that is threatening the government of national unity,
All right, so
not the DA, and he must act accordingly.
All right, I hear that part. So therefore, in very quick answer, considering that the president is threatening the unity of the GNU, from a DA perspective, quick yes or no, would the withdrawal of the GNU be on the DA agenda if the president goes ahead and signs the bill?
Sorry, I did not hear that.
If the president goes ahead and signs the bill, would the withdrawal of the DA from the GNU be put on a DA agenda?
Obviously, the DA will discuss it, but there are a lot of other measures that one can take. We've got the measures of taking this to the courts, and that the DA will most certainly do. But we would not like to litigate against our own parties in the government of national unity, and therefore the alternative of sending this back to the National Assembly is a much better solution that can be reached.
And that's where we'll leave it. Willie Okamp, appreciate you giving off your time, the DA's national spokesperson.
Liverpool FC have collected maximum points in their opening 3 matches of the 2024-2025 season. They want more victories.
Look at the white shirts coming here. Salah scores at Old Trafford again.
Meanwhile, Forest want to dictate terms at Anfield.
High towards the back post. Wood with a free header. Yes! 1-0 Forest. Chris Wood scores.
This is the Premier League. Catch the spectacular clash between Liverpool FC and Nottingham Forest on Saturday, 14 September at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Welcome to the team, Andile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The students, UJ ladies, want to ensure that they secure 3 points to stay close to the heels of second place UWC ladies. However, Copperbelt ladies plan to fasten their belts tight and escape from the bottom half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch them Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. UJ Ladies FC versus Copperbelt Ladies FC on Saturday, 14 September at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, I tell you what, I'm sure you have lots of thoughts about that conversation I had with the DA's spokesperson, Willie Oakham. So what do you make of it? What do you make of the ballot bill? What do you make about the point he raised in particular with reference to the right to choose the language of choice in a particular school or region taken away from the governing body and given to national government? What do you make of their position in terms of them feeling that it is the president, Ramaphosa that is threatening the government of national unity? Lots to consider. Right, your thoughts, 086 000 2032, WhatsApp, voice notes or text 0614 104 107. In the meantime, let's travel from South Africa. We go abroad. We go to the USA. There's the big debate that took place last night between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, right? So who's the winner, if anything, out of that debate? Let's get the verdict from Dr. Gideon Chitanga, who's a research associate at the African Center for the Study of the United States. Dr. Chitanga, appreciate your time. You are now connected to the National Pulse.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you for your time. Right, what we'll do is before we get talking to you, let me play this BBC clip that gives a very interesting reference and insight into that debate of Trump versus Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food.
You talk about extreme.
They've destroyed the economy, and all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy.
She is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
Okay, so there we are. Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. I mean, that's just one snapshot. Clearly, it's not the whole debate, and you can probably listen to it on YouTube or even on the SABC channels that we're covering it extensively. But let's get the thoughts of Dr. Gideon Chitanga. So I take it clearly you've watched that debate with an eagle eye. What came out of it for you?
Well, there was just a humorous side of how that debate was quite entertaining, in the sense of just looking at Donald Trump, the person, and how his demeanor of expression exposed what I think is a dangerous posture that is really out of touch with reality in terms of how he picked the issues and tried to define them. But credit to Kamala Harris from the start of the debate, he just got Trump defending himself. Key issues, economic policy, immigration, and she tried to really sharply get under Trump's skin by going into those things that are so personally irritating for Donald Trump. And I think she really, really invested a lot of effort in understanding the personality, the political and personality and the human personality that Trump is. And she was able to put her on the corner. And in trying to defend himself, he actually wasted a lot of time, exposed himself as a candidate who is very much out of touch with reality. I think verging on ignorance if it's not just there's a lot of meaningless rhetoric.
But here's the thing, I mean, even if he's out of touch, as you may say, the polls suggest, it's like 51-49. That means half the electorate would vote for him anyway. So he's not completely out of touch. In fact, he's very much in touch. And maybe it does require a bit or a percentage or two to tip the scales. And the same with Kamala Harris. At some stage, she has to convince Trump supporters to vote for her. So did anything of that come through in you watching the debate that says, hey, I'm speaking to you and I'm going to get your vote? Yeah.
Yes, the fact of the matter is, in my view, the intention of there are two key things. I think for Kamala Harris, she is in this continuous cycle to introduce herself to the national electorate in the U.S. As a female candidate, fairly as a new candidate in the presidency, although she has been a vice president, but she's trying to bring in her voice as an independent presidential candidate. And I think she did that very well. She's trying to speak to voters who are probably not quite decided on who they should vote for. And increasingly, I felt that in terms of her messaging, in terms of her articulation of issues, in terms of her execution of the debate, she was very much incisive and very sharp.
Okay.
But there's a context in the U.S. The polls, they give us an impression that I would associate with the polarization in American politics. After becoming a candidate after Biden stepped down, I think what Kamala did was to raise the figures to a point where the Democrats can now really be thinking the presidency is within reach. What we will have to see is whether a successful execution of the debate will actually translate into generating more votes for the Democrats. I think for Trump, he was quite pathetic in the debate, and I do not think that his manner of execution and engagement with the issues would have changed the views of neutrals.
Okay, and that's where we will leave it. I think that's the big question. The performance of a presidential candidate in the USA at a presidential debate, does that translate into votes won or conversely votes lost if you underperform? It's the big question. Appreciate you giving up your time. We certainly, I presume, we're going to chat lots more in the build-up to that US-American election. Dr. Gideon Chitanga, thanks for that. Let's get the news headlines now. Here's Majubi.
And a very good afternoon. In your headlines, Asawa, trade union federations COSATU, FEDUSA, SAFTU, and independent unions have tabled a 12% wage increase demand for public sector workers as they look towards the 2025 financial year. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says the department is considering pursuing a way of mediation instead of fighting medical legal cases in court. And Defense Counsel Zandile Mshololo says it took several ballistic analysts to verify Colonel Chris Mangena's findings as the results from the bullets fired from the alleged Senzo Meyiwa murder weapon were inconclusive. And those are your headlines. A full news update at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N1 northbound in Roodepoort has a crash reported near Main Reef Road Bridge. Sandton Drive westbound is slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. And the N1 northbound in Midrand has a stationary truck reported before New Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a crash at Camperdown. The N2 northbound is queuing towards Westwood Mall. And Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend, the N7 Jakes Gerwel Drive southbound is queuing at Voortrekker Road, and Kloofnik Road in Tamboerskloof has a truck crash reported at Camp Street. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
So to me, I want to get tickets to the Springbok game against Argentina. Where's it? Nelspruit, right?
Yes.
So I want a
at
ticket.
Mbombela Stadium.
Where do I buy it?
Listen, I've got bad news for you and those that are looking to buy those tickets. A very good afternoon to you, because SA Rugby has now issued an urgent warning to rugby supporters to beware of online websites claiming to have tickets for sale for the Springboks' last home match of the year against Argentina at Mbombela Stadium. Tickets that are bought via CompuTicket or Stadium Ticket offers are actually sold out, and SA Rugby has warned that any other website offering tickets is a scammer. The Castle Lager Rugby Championship trophy is going to be presented at the match to either the Springboks or the Pumas, the only teams remaining in the competition with a chance of winning it. So it's too late for you, Ashraf, to buy tickets.
My goodness. And the warning is there. Don't go and just buy it off the streets.
Absolutely.
They don't
right.
exist. Yeah. Okay.
They are scammers. Moving on to athletics, South African 10-kilometer champion Glen Rose Xaba has credited Coach Caster Semenya with revamping her training program as she enjoys her best season yet. Since leaving the Sponge training group under Michael Seme in Tshwane a few years ago, Xaba has bounced back under Semenya, and she is saying that her new training regime is helping to restore her confidence.
So far, my career is going very well because I was having ups and downs. When I moved to Michael Sponge and go to Caster, because when you change the programs, the athletes start to change and the body does not used to the program. So I think now I'm running better than when I was in group of Sponge.
On to football, Mamelodi Sundowns were supposed to be playing away this weekend as they start yet another bid to win the African Champions League, but they will not have to go as far as they would have thought. They've been drawn against Mbambane Swallows from Eswatini in the second round of this year's competition after being given a bye in the first round. However, they are playing an away leg on Saturday, but because no stadium in Eswatini has been passed fit for use in international competition by the Confederation of African Football, Swallows have chosen to play the game at Lucas Moripe in Atteridgeville, one of Sundowns' home ground. So they will definitely be looking to use that to their advantage. Then hot on the heels of a spectacular weekend of international rugby in Cape Town, we got to see the Springbok women taking on Spain, and they are facing Spain actually next week on Thursday at 5, and they literally outplayed the Barbarians in an impressive fashion last Saturday, and will be looking to build on that performance as they have their sights set firmly on the WXV2, which kicks off on the last weekend of the month. Then in hockey, Australia's Tom Craig has been banned from playing hockey for 12 months after being arrested on suspicion of buying cocaine during the Paris 2024 Olympics. Now, Craig must serve half of the ban, with the remaining 6 months suspended because of his behavior. And Hockey Australia said the ban began on the 9th of September and that the 29-year-old will be eligible for the 2025 national men's squad, which is set to be announced at the end of the year. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now.
All right, so tickets are gone. And again, we've made the point. In fact, I chatted, remember, to Mike Sharman the other day. Please listen to that podcast last week that we did that interview about the Springbok brand. It's just an incredibly powerful brand.
Absolutely. It's literally a sign of unity. You can't shy away from that.
But it's also a sign of excellence first. You see, you can't, when people say be united, you can also be united in defeat. But here, it's a good example of, because this team also had its downs. I mean, that team lost 60-something to the All Blacks a few years before the 2019 World Cup. Then there was Kamp Staldra a long time ago. Yeah. Meaning when things gel together and you deliver best in class in the world, people who have no interest in that sport are wearing Springbok tops.
Absolutely. And it's quite interesting that everyone still sees it as a top brand, because right now the big talk around the team is obviously just rejudging the team as a whole and building up to the next World Cup with the new crop of players that are going to replace the ones that are already in. So big ups to Coach Rassie Erasmus on the plan that he has set.
You change and you can still continue winning at the same time. He's got the formula. I should get him in charge of sorting out hospitals and schools. And okay, let me keep quiet. We'll do it some other time. More sport in an hour.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
I tell you what, we've got so many things coming up. I can't cope. I don't know about you. Let me tell you what. We chat to Obenewa Amponsa around the global legacy of Steve Biko coming up next, okay? We'll chat to Sibusiso Villani, remember the man who conquered Everest, about his next big climb. That comes up just after that. And if I fast forward to the very end of the show, as part of our feature that we call Winners, we'll chat to Matt Pierce. Remember, he's the guy who was a commentator on his 150th Rugby International. So we'll talk about that. And that's just the fancy stuff. What about the other big news stories that clearly drives the national pulse, including that issue of the Bella Bill and the DA's position and the ANC or the President's potential response? Here's some thoughts on that.
Hello. I just think that the government is trying to take each and every right that we have as people of South Africa. It is trying to control everything that we have. They started with this two-port system. They want to control our monies, and now they want to control and take decisions, and people must not have any say. So I really supported DA on this one, and can't be the president and also the minister who are taking decisions for our kids, for our children. Yes.
Okay, there you are. The government making decisions for us. So you'd concur with the DA's position that it has to be localized in terms of local governing body. Here's another one.
I may be wrong, but I understood from someone's comment that the Bella Bill makes provision for jailing the parent for a year if the child is not sent to school. If that is so, that's making it even worse. Thank you. Claire from near George.
Okay, some may say, and I'm saying it tongue-in-cheek, okay, some may say maybe that's the type of discipline we need. I'm just saying, really, just take it in the spirit that I mentioned. Let's get into all more serious issues. Here's another one on the DA.
Hi, Ashraf. Why does DA threaten to pull out of the Government of National Unity if the educational bill is signed up? Why? Bringing up threats instead of sitting down with the president or with the committee concerned and discuss this issue. No, man. For the fact that it's threatening, so it means DA's stance is completely unacceptable and incomprehensible. The behavior is unacceptable completely. Thank you, Willie and Kuno.
I'm battling to understand why you say the behavior is unacceptable. In fact, they haven't threatened to pull out of the GNU. They've said they will use whichever legal means possible, including maybe going to court, because it's that fundamental to the DA. But step one is to speak to the president, and the spokesperson confirmed that they will have a chat before Friday, which could well be tomorrow. So that's what's the official position. What happens behind the scenes, I don't know. But you haven't commented on their position in terms of why they are so upset about it.
Yo, good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, this thing of GNU, if it collapses, it would have done injustice to this Guyton McKenzie guy. The way Guyton McKenzie is so excited to be a minister, that will destroy him if it were to collapse. So they must just keep this GNU together just for the sake of Guyton McKenzie. Please, Bob, Cape Town.
I tell you what, I think you got a point. You know, Gayton's made the point, the minister, McKenzie, has made the point, that, and he tweeted the other day about it to say, besides his energy, which we see every single day, right, and made the point to say, look at me, look at where I was in my life. Now I'm a minister. Even mocking the EFF, to say, I'm a minister, a cabinet minister, like, where are you? And the other day he also tweeted the fact to say, well, you see, the GNU has survived longer than that progressive alliance. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting point that you bring up in terms of what does this mean. Let's see if we can connect you maybe further callers. We're going to get you the guest. We'll get to our guest talking about Steve Biko right after this.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Okay, it's a time that, you know, once a year there's a big interest in terms of the legacy of Steve Biko, or Stephen Bantu Biko. He tomorrow, in fact, marks the 47th anniversary of his death. I think it's a question we all ask, like, what would have happened had he lived? It's probably a question you could ask even about Chris Hani. What would have happened had Chris Hani lived? We don't know, right, do we? But let's talk about certainly the global legacy of Steve Biko. And my guest is Obenawa Amponsa, who's the former CEO of the Steve Biko Foundation. She also serves on the board of the U.S. chapter of the African Women's Development Fund and is currently pursuing her PhD in African literature. Obenawa, good chatting to you. It's been a long time. I mean, yes, you're in the USA now.
I am, Ashraf. It is very good to be in conversation with you today.
Much appreciated, right? So you've got this big responsibility of perhaps responding to my question to you first up, which is, had Steve Biko lived, and this is 47 years longer than he actually lived, right? How do you think he would have shaped South Africa today, and perhaps even Pan-African politics?
You know, I think that's a fantastic question, Ashraf, because it's one that we can really draw inspiration from. The fact that Biko was only 30 when he was killed, yet 47 years later, much longer than the period of time that he lived, we're still speaking about him, we're still speaking about his ideas, we're still speaking about his legacy, speaks to just how powerful and compelling his message of Black consciousness and his leadership was. And I think had Steve Biko lived, South Africa would be a fundamentally different place, because he really focused on issues of consciousness, issues of development, issues of the person. And we know that when we as people are in alignment with our sense of identity, we are able to accomplish so much more than when we're uncertain about who we are or operating from a place of inferiority.
What then, you know, and perhaps you can answer this since you've prefaced it, right? What then do you think is the magic of Steve Biko that we can still talk about him as if he's with us today, 47 years later, considering that unlike other, let's say, you know, leaders of countries or presidents, he never held the type of higher office that we talk about that gives you that sort of global influence, yet he has.
Yes, he does have that global influence. And I think fundamentally because the issues that Biko were speaking about were relevant then to South Africans, to people across the continent battling battling colonialism, They were relevant in places like the United States, in places like the United Kingdom, in places like Brazil, where people were fundamentally dealing with the legacies of anti-Black racism. The systems of oppression, of apartheid that were working in South Africa weren't only working in South Africa, they were working around the world. And in many ways, those forces are still with us today, as we see with the rise of the right. I think the thing that was distinctive about Biko was, for him, it wasn't just dealing with the symptoms of the systems and the issues. It was fundamentally, how do we dismantle this system and create something new? And I think that in Biko's work, he really focused on three aspects. The first, as I said earlier, was that of consciousness. Who am I? What is my place in the world? What does it mean to be Black? How does my identity shape the future that I choose for myself? I think the second thing that Biko focused on, and this was probably the most powerful aspect of his legacy, was community. If you look at the legacy of Black consciousness and the organizations that were banned on October 19th, we see that there were everything from sports organizations to women's groups to nursing organizations. It was a broad-based movement that drew in people from every walk of life. And we see that many of those leaders have gone on to shape national history in South Africa, like Mampela Rampele and Barney Pityana, just to name two of many. And then I think thirdly, Biko also experimented with, how do we put this newfound consciousness, how do we put this community into play, practically speaking? And we saw that with things like Zanumpilo Clinic, based in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, where they started a community clinic as medical students to provide health care to the local community. They had a creche there, they had a garden. So it wasn't just about the ideas, it was about the ideas and action. And I think that was the magic of Biko, his colleagues, and his legacy.
So here's the thought. Who in South Africa, who on the African continent, who around the world, it could be an individual or it could be a movement or a community, as you refer to, are implementing some of the ideals of Steve Biko to the point where effectively they are working?
I think that those ideals are found in so many different places in South Africa and the world. I think that we have institutions, of course, the Steve Biko Foundation in South Africa itself and the Steve Biko Center. We have institutions like the Steve Biko Housing Association in the United Kingdom that really focus on providing housing, safe, affordable housing to marginalized communities in the UK, and then supporting other Black and minority entities there. We also have places like the Steve Biko Cultural Institute in Bahia, Brazil, that works to get young Black Brazilians who are shut out of the school system into education. They've actually started a fantastic college there in Bahia. So from an institutional point of view, you certainly have a number of institutions that are carrying that legacy forward. You also have individual leaders who continue to carry the spirit of Steve Biko and self-reliance with them. And one of the things that I appreciate the most, having the opportunity to live and to travel around the world, is to see how young leaders from Black Lives leaders here in the U.S. are inspired by Steve Biko's legacy as you speak to local organic activists, to young people in Cape Town. So the legacy lives, and it really lives through people. And once again, I think the key to Biko's legacy is that it's not just people reciting what he said back in 1977, it's also people thinking about what this legacy means today. How do I implement these ideas and put it into action in ways that make sense to me and in ways that serve my community today?
Let's talk about community. And there's so many parts of the world, not just South Africa, but many other parts of the world, that appear to be so fractured. Society is so fractured. And we talk about compromises around social justice that's so prevalent. On the other hand, what I do see is a growing rise, let's say, particularly in the last 5 years, maybe even longer, but not more than 10 years, of civil society articulating their positions on the streets of capitals around the world in opposition to political leadership, no matter who they are. I mean, would that have resonated, with Steve Biko? And what can we learn from, again, the Steve Biko plan or vision in implementing, again, new ways of effecting change?
Well, and I think this is one of the things that's interesting when we think about or we consider the mechanisms that create change. I think that we tend to as media, as the public, focus on kind of the big public displays, the demonstrations, the protests, etc. And those certainly have a place and have certainly been important in terms of moving the needle forward. We saw that, for instance, in 2020 with global protests around the murder of George Floyd, many of which even happened in South Africa. But I would say that behind protests, there is a lot of work that is often unseen, and this was the case with the Black Consciousness movement as well. We, for instance, saw with the Viva Frelimo rallies in 1974, which was led by Saps Cooper and so many others, we saw BC activists taking to the streets. But we know that behind that, there had been years of political education. There had been years of organizing. There had been years of writing op-eds and newsletters and engaging their schools and communities. And so it's almost as if there has to be sort of a chain reaction for change to happen. And I see that in many places in the world right now. Yes, there are mass movements. Yes, there are protests, as there should be. But part of that mass movement building is around the political education. It's around how do we serve and support communities in real time? And how do we also have this mass protest to make sure that our demands are actually met? So it continues to be a multifaceted approach.
And we'll leave those questions about the how maybe to another longer conversation. Appreciate you giving off your time today. Obenua Amponsa, the former CEO of the Steve Biko Foundation, speaking to us ahead of the 47th anniversary of his death, which is tomorrow. We'll chat to Sibusiso Villani after this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Tell you what, when you talk about best in class, people who have conquered and navigated the potholes and reached the highest peaks in the world, one of them would be the South African Sibusiso Villani. Not just has he done all of that, and he has spoken at length at events and spoken to the point where people who know nothing about mountaineering, I was like, oh my goodness, this person certainly inspires me. So we thought, let's chat to him, because I understand he's got another, let's call it another Everest to climb. It may not be Everest, but another Everest. Sibusiso, I appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much indeed, Ashraf. I appreciate the opportunity, and good afternoon to your listeners as well.
Thank you. Now, we call this show the National Pulse. I take it you'll be watching your pulse, because pulse, breathing, oxygen is a critical part of what you're going to do next. Tell me, what's your next plan?
It certainly is, but thank goodness I've been training hard for that one. Yes, my next plan is to climb a beautiful mountain. They call it the Matterhorn of the Himalayas. It is a peak that most people won't know, not unless you've trekked to Everest Base Camp, called Amathablam, just under 7,000 meters. People will say, it's smaller than Everest, but I bet you, I kid you not, Amathablam is the iconic mountain of the Himalayas. Technical, look pretty steep, pretty tough, and very few people climb that one. So it is harder than Everest when we speak of technicality. Altitude, not as high, but it is hard. It's a tough climb, but I feel excited about it because it was before I went to Everest that I saw a picture of it, and I thought it was Everest from a distance. And when I was excited about that's the mountain I want to climb, I was disappointed when I was told, no, that is actually not Everest.
Yeah.
So I loved that mountain, and I thought one day I will, and that one day is happening pretty soon.
Well, that reminds me of
tomorrow for this one.
Well, there you are. That reminds you of Nelson Mandela, I think, who makes the point is once you conquer one mountain, you look at the next mountain. So you were at Everest and you say, hey, look at the guy next door. That's where I want to be, right? So you're saying you're leaving. Did you say you're leaving tomorrow?
I'm leaving tomorrow. Yes, the climb for Amathablam starts on the first week of October. But the reason I'm leaving tomorrow is I'm also leading or guiding a couple from South Africa to Everest Base Camp first, which will take us about 20 days. And then when they come back, then I will stay and climb Amathablam.
I understand. Well, I'll tell you what, we certainly wish you best of luck. And I'm not too sure what the Wi-Fi connectivity is, but if by chance you're on that Matterhorn, as you say, and you can send us a please call me, we'll be glad to return your call, absolutely, and speak to you then with that South African flag, nogal, right? Tell me about your about some of the issues around preparation for this journey, for this climb, in terms of the challenges you faced.
Ashraf, thank you very much for asking. But first of all, I would like to thank you for having really resent or posted my tweet or X on X, where I made a comment about really appealing for support with regards to emergency or medical insurance evacuation. My challenges have always been to get the correct funding of the sponsorship support that I will need to go and climb these mountains, which have become a huge commercial entity and almost near impossible for any ordinary African to afford, unless you run a very lucrative business, which I don't. But it tends to be the financial side of it because of the commercialization of these trips. I mean, I will make an example of Everest. If you were thinking of Everest one day, you're looking at between now, your cheaper guy, $50,000, your upmarket sort of premium, $100,000, and that's not small money. That's where you need corporate support, outdoor companies. But sadly, in Africa, we don't have that many that wants to see their flag or a logo on your jacket. Or
I'm amazed at that.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at that. So let me get this right. Your trip is not sponsored?
No, because I mean, after 4 years of really trying hard, I never raised a penny, and then thank goodness I just thought, okay, I've had my small little investment that I saved myself. I thought I'm going to give this one to myself, because if there's any mountain I climb in my life, it has to be this one, and then that'll be the sponsorship has been near impossible, so to speak. That's the way. I know not that I've not been trying. I've been trying, and I've had other people try as well. I had one person committed for 2 years, sending out proposals because I wanted to climb one big mountain, not this one. And after 2 years, he said, "So I've given up. I can't help you." So it has been the sad reality of it.
So
because then it sort of it puts one off the idea of talking about inspiring others to follow in your footsteps. Because when a kid asks you, where do I start? And you say to yourself, oh my goodness, not unless you have got a very rich dad who will sponsor, you won't get the money to go there. So it becomes really quite sad.
Okay. So quickly, what does this trip cost you now, and what are the shortfalls still, and how do you intend overcoming that, considering you got like a day to go?
I've got the only thing that is pending now was the emergency or medical emergency evacuation insurance, which will probably be about. I checked the other day, and I was told for high altitude climbing, you're looking at between $1,000 for your insurance premium or insurance cover for that. So that is what is still pending. So I'm arriving in Kathmandu without one, and then hoping that when I get there, the agency will sort of point me towards one that will be much more affordable, and then I'll have to buy insurance, because I can't. It's one of those things you can't say I will just risk it. You've got to be.
Well, hopefully somebody's listening and saying, hey, we can make a plan and ensure you are against the high risk of being this mountain climber. But just the last thing is, we got on to news time. I mean, surely others will understand, and you would get it, that when you travel like that abroad, you represent South Africa in the same way that the Springboks represent South Africa, and therefore when you talk about brand SA or being proudly South African, you're literally are a flag bearer. Is that a connection that's been difficult to explain to the Ministry of Sport, if mountaineering is a sport, or even to sponsors? A quick answer on that.
Yes, it has been a challenge to communicate the value of it, because I think that is what you get asked. What's the value of it? Yes, we stand up with the flag proudly and being very patriotic. I carry it everywhere I go, but at the end it is a little holiday. You just went out for a social event and that's it. Okay. So it doesn't have that kind of activity with someone walking back with a Olympic gold medals. I can walk down the summit of Mount Everest and it will be just that. It was another summit. Yes, you put us on the map, but it ends there, unfortunately.
Well, look, let's leave it at that. Hopefully that's going to change in the next few hours before your trip, because I think we have to reflect that you are best-in-class champion in your field, clearly, and there needs to be that support, not after the event, as the Minister of Sport has said, but in fact before the event. So, Sibusiso Villani, thank you for your time. Keep your WhatsApps on. You never know where you are and how we're going to reach you sometime down the line. Appreciate your time. Let's get the news now. Here's Majupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. The top stories this hour: public servants demand a 12% pay hike and mediation to be considered in medical legal case. Very good afternoon. Trade union federations COSATU, FEDUSA, SAFTU and independent unions have tabled a 12% wage increase demand for public sector workers as they look towards the 2025 financial year. They have formed a unit through the Labour Caucus on a consolidated approach to the wage talks at the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council. Their demands include housing, medical aid and danger allowance, amongst other benefits. The Public Servants Association's Claude Nyker says the employer is offering 3%, a move that the association has rejected.
We've consolidated all our demands, tabled a 12% salary increase with effect from 1st of April next year. Coupled with that, we've asked for an increase in the medical aid, increase in the housing allowance to 2,500 Rand. We've asked for the danger allowance and other allowances in the public sector to be revised. We've also indicated that all contract workers and those that are employed on casual basis should be insourced week. And I can confirm that the employer has come back and is indicated that unfortunately these demands are unaffordable and they cannot consider these demands.
The Chamber of Commerce and Industry's Trade Expectations Index moderated to 62 points in August, down from 66 in July. SACCI, however, says that trade expectations remain positive for the next 6 months. The organization says that despite the positive outlook in trade expectations, the prevailing trade conditions have remained constrained. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says the department is considering pursuing a way of mediation instead of fighting medical legal cases in court. He was briefing Parliament on the medical legal claims and interventions. Last week, the SIU told SCOPA that the country could pay out 4 billion Rand in medical legal claims. Motsoaledi says the Law Reform Council is already looking at adding compulsory mediation.
And ask Parliament to support us to deal with the matter in which advanced countries are dealing with. When I said Dr. Margaret Chan was asking me why we are following the American style, this shootout between lawyers, whereas countries which are very highly developed, like I mentioned Scandinavian countries, they sit and say, no court cases, but fair compensation. Let's get experts to decide on how to compensate this person. And they say many poor people, even those who don't know lawyers, end up being compensated because there's a fair process. That's the one we want to look into.
Defense Counsel Zandile Mshololo says it took several ballistic analysts to verify Colonel Chris Mangena's findings, as the results from the bullets fired from the alleged Senzo Meyiwa murder weapon were inconclusive. Mangena linked the firearm seized from accused number 3 in the matter to the bullet found on the crime scene after firing several test bullets. 5 men are on trial in the High Court in Pretoria for the 2014 murder of the Bafana Bafana captain. Advocate Mshololo has grilled the chief forensic analyst Edward Serreo about the bullet markings.
The reason why the additional 2 analysts were asked to do the verification is because you had not reached an agreement and your report was inconclusive because you did not have sufficient individual striation to match with the exhibit.
That is incorrect. Mangena approached me alone and I did that verification alone. So I can only testify about my role alone in that matter.
And the U.S. Embassy in Iraq has confirmed that the U.S. diplomatic facility in Baghdad came under attack last night. The embassy says there are no casualties reported. Security sources say 2 rockets landed near the U.S. forces stationed at the international airport in the Iraqi capital. The expected visit by Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian to Baghdad today would be his first official trip abroad since taking office. Iraq's security services say in a statement that they are unable to determine the type or causes of the explosion and that no party has claimed responsibility for it. Recapping the top story at 4 o'clock, trade union federations COSATU, FEDUSA, SAFTU and independent unions have tabled a 12% wage increase demand for public sector workers as they look towards the 2025 financial year. For SAFM News, Kimudupima Khalemel.
In your sports this hour, Minister Gayton McKenzie gives an update on Boxing SA acting CEO. Hugo Bruce laments lack of sharpness from Bafana, and we talk all things karate with the medalists from the Goju-Ryu Championship. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N1 northbound in Roodepoort has a crash reported near Main Reef Road Bridge. Sandton Drive westbound is slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive, and the N1 northbound in Midrand has a stationary truck reported before New Road. In KZN, on Inanda Road, there's roadworks with traffic restrictions at the N2 highway. The N2 northbound is queuing towards Westwood Mall, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, on the N1 inbound, ramp closure reported, so there's no access to the M5 North due to a lost load incident. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and Okavango Road southbound in Brackenfell slow moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So a few days ago, I was with a group of people, about 30 young South Africans who are getting ready, packing their bags and saying goodbye to our country, not forever, just for a couple of weeks, because they're off to the One Young World Summit, in which this year will be in Montreal in Canada, right? And that summit is a coming together of I think 2,000 of the brightest young minds, the brightest young activists in the world that comes together annually in different cities. Last year was in Dublin, this year in Canada, in Montreal, right? Now, I say that because, well, I'm going to be part of it. I'll be joining them as well. So I'll be away for a couple of weeks next week, and I'm in a privileged position of moderating some of the key sessions at the event, okay? But maybe more about that in the next couple of days. This is the point I want to make. One of the people I spoke to has never traveled abroad, and he asked me, like, what advice can you give me since I've never left the country? And what I said is, make sure that you have your flag, the South African flag, as a tag on your bag, and at least a metal badge or a lapel pin of the South African flag on your jacket or suit, whatever it is you're wearing, okay? And he asked me why. I said, well, I'll tell you what. You know, when you're in foreign lands, it's not so obvious who you are. People don't really know who you are. You could be from anywhere. And you could have a person standing next to you who may not even know that you speak, for example, English, because you'll be at different airports, international airports around the world. So one is you are marketing brand SA by wearing the flag on the luggage and on the lapel or the metal badge that I talk about, right? Number two, for practical marketing, networking reasons, you are inviting people to come and talk to you. And thirdly, you're also in a position where you can provide assistance to people who need, because often a person need something and they don't know who to ask and they don't know who speaks the language, and they suddenly see you with a South African flag, a tiny one, inconspicuous, just about, and they will come up to you. And that's not selfish. That's the type of ambassadorial role you need to play when you travel abroad. Because when we travel and we come across as best in class, willing to help, willing to support, willing to solve other people's problems, you then effectively put the South African nation brand upmost in the minds of people. And don't for one minute think that that small interaction of yourself in any capital in the world, like Montreal, will not change people's perceptions of South Africa. So there we are. Flag on the bag, metal badge, lapel, pin that has a South African flag. That's what I said. I wonder whether you've done the same thing when you've traveled abroad. If that's the case, I certainly would love to know.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, we should be chatting to Impo Motshekwe, who's the former MK member, former MK MP, in fact, who's part of the group who, have been expelled by the MK party as MPs, and they took their matter to appeal, and that appeal has been dismissed. Okay, so the plan was to speak to him. Unfortunately, he's now just come back to us at the 11th hour saying, well, he can't talk to us anymore. He's consulted with his lawyers, and they said that they'll get back to him. So he's waiting for them to give us his okay, so that he can talk to us. Remember, initially we had also spoken to Tommy Kuzwayo. Remember before, when he was the spokesperson for that group, when they said they are going to challenge that position? Well, I understand that he now effectively is saying that he wants nothing to do with this. Now, all it leaves us with is perhaps maybe he'll talk to us and maybe he won't, but it gives us a chance to just tell you to just give us your thoughts about the expulsion of the 10 MK members. And I know the MK party spokesperson yesterday made the point on another platform to say, but they were there like on a loan position. When you think of a footballer, when a footballer joins a club on a 6-month loan, that's the understanding. You're on loan and you can always be recalled in the middle of that loan. So that was the expectation. That's what the MK party official position is from the spokesperson, okay? But that's clearly not the position with what the 10 members felt about it anyway. So I'm just saying that if you have a thought on that, you certainly can connect with us and tell us what you think. Or as well as my point that I made about the flag, the South African flag, when you travel, are you intentional about carrying the South African flag on your luggage? Just a small tag, just to indicate who you are. I certainly am very intentional about that. Well, what about the intentions around the IEC and adequate controls regarding confidential personal information? I understand the information regulator, well, they have a position on this. They held a press briefing earlier today to share the progress and developments of the regulator's work since the beginning of the financial year. Now, one of the outcomes is that the Electoral Commission of South Africa, the IEC, according to the information regulator, they believe they do not have adequate controls in place to protect the confidential personal information that it receives. So, why is this important? Let's find out with Advocate Pansy Tlakula, the chairperson of the Information Regulator of South Africa. Advocate Tlakula, good to connect with you. You are live on the National Pulse.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
It's been a while. Thank you. I certainly saw you hurrying and scurrying at the rock at the period of the election time. Absolutely right. But let's get to the issue now. What's the big concern here that you have effectively red flagged?
You'll recall that just before the elections in May, the candidate nomination list of the African National Congress and Umkhonto weSizwe Party were shared on various social media platforms. And after that, we then, as the information regulator, we conducted an assessment to find out whether the IEC had adequate security measures in place to safeguard the confidentiality of personal information in their possession. On the whole, their security measures are in line with COPIA. We just found just one gap missing. They did not have adequate access control measures to ensure that the confidentiality of personal information is protected. You would recall that the person who leaked the information was one of the ad hoc staff members.
Mm-hmm.
And we found that really to grant access control like that, even to people who are ad hoc, was not adequate to protect the confidentiality of the personal information in their possession. So that was really the issue that we looked at. Otherwise, on the whole, we're satisfied with their security measures.
Okay, understandably, we're going to focus on this issue, right? And would this be the information that someone like myself, when I register, as a voter at a polling booth, and then change polling booth and register again, is that the information that I would give to them?
Say that again. I didn't
I was
quite
saying,
understand the
when you
question.
talk about the information that they don't have adequate controls to protect the confidential personal information, would that be the information that we give to the IEC when we effectively register ourselves to vote ahead of an election?
No. That was okay. This was a specific matter. It was a specific matter of the leaked candidate nomination list of the two parties that I've just mentioned.
Right, okay.
That list was found in all social media platforms, and it had the names of the candidates in those lists and their ID numbers, including the name of the president of the country, because he was number one on the ANC list, and his ID. And the number one on the MK list, I think it was former President Jacob Zuma, and his ID. And the ID numbers of all the 400 candidates who were nominated by those parties. So it was that particular issue. But when we went in, we needed to look at their systems as a whole to find out whether they had adequate security measures. We were satisfied, except that issue of the access control, we found that it was a problem.
Okay, so being satisfied overall, but that was a problem, and it just so happened to have the IDs of two of the most significant, influential people in the country. I mean, that's a big deal, isn't it?
It was really not that. It was the IDs of everybody, the 400 candidates.
Understandably,
Because an ID is a unique identifier. You cannot just have IDs of people all over the place, never mind in social media platforms. It's a serious issue.
Well, I think it's a point well made. Is it too early to say what's been the response from the IEC point of view?
Not really, because we have given them, I think, 30 days to fix that. But we also found that when that breach happened, they did not adequately inform the data subject in question. Because what happens is that when you have a data breach like that, you then have to inform the data subject's consent, and the notification has to comply with certain requirements in the Protection of Personal Information Act. You must notify them so that to enable them to take steps to ensure that they protect their personal information and so forth. So we found that the notification that they had published, that the IEC had published in their website to inform the data subjects of the leakage of their personal information, it was not adequate. For instance, it did not describe what the possible consequences of their information being leaked. What would the consequences be? Some such thing. They did not even say who leaked, because you're supposed to say what the identity. They have to say the identity.
All right. I tell you what, I want to find out from you what has been the IEC response in terms of why were the systems not fail safe. But let's get a response right after this.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
Hey Mike, congratulations on your retirement.
Thanks, Andile.
Are you preparing for it?
Yes, but not just for myself.
For you and?
For me and my employees.
Oh.
You know, since we moved to Old Mutual Corporate, their retirement funds have not only been safe and secure, but gaining competitive returns through exposure to diverse investment markets.
Impressive.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The breakers of the barriers have demonstrated that bravery, courage, and excellence often exceed any boundaries and limits. This exhilarating moment is the 19th edition to celebrate and honor the tangible impact of women in sport. Experience the Momentum G-Sport Awards 2024 on Thursday, 12 September at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
All right, we've got a few minutes more with Advocate Pansy Tlakula, the chairperson of the Information Regulator of South Africa. We are talking to her in the context of their findings that the Electoral Commission of South Africa, the IEC, does not have adequate controls in place to protect the confidential personal information it receives, and in specific reference to two major political parties, the ANC and the MK party, and a whole list of members of potential MPs, and the information was able to be it was certainly open to public scrutiny, and that is a big issue. Therefore, my point to you, Advocate Tlakula, when you've raised this issue with the IEC in terms of the inadequate controls, did they offer anything in mitigation as to why that is the case?
Yeah, they did. They just said the ad hoc employee in question had simply broken the trust that they had placed in him or her. But we found that to be inadequate, as I indicated, that you cannot just give access control to an ad hoc staff, particularly of such a critical list of critical information containing unique identifier. That's where we thought that they slipped up a bit.
Absolutely. What then happens next? I mean, the purpose of you flagging it obviously would be corrective measures, right? What happens next?
Yes, it is corrective measures, and the two issues that we have raised, they have to go back and publish another notice in the website that complies with the provisions of POPIA. They must also fix their access controls. They must do that, I think, within 30 days. I can't recall whether we gave them 30 days or 60 days to do that. And once they do that, we close the matter. And they can't just say to us, we have complied. They must prove to us that they have complied by providing us with necessary documentation to prove that they have complied with our directives. If they've done, then the end of the matter. If they don't within the period that we've stipulated, that's when we go to the next stage, which is a penalty or a fine.
And clearly you don't want to go there.
No. We don't want to.
Just lastly, is there anything else you'd like to share in terms of the findings? Maybe not as critical as this one, but just findings that you think are important that we need to know?
I think the WhatsApp finding is an important one for us. Particularly because WhatsApp is big, and you recall that they had introduced a privacy policy a couple of years ago, or maybe a year or so ago, and we have been going back and forth with them because we said to them, look, the terms and conditions and protections that you have for people in Europe is not the same as for us in South Africa. Your policy, your revised privacy policy does not comply with our law. For instance, when they introduced that privacy policy, they simply said, look, you have to consent to this privacy policy. If you don't consent, we will offboard you from the platform. You'll never be able to use it again. But that was not the term and conditions in Europe in terms of the law, the General Data Protection Act. So we also conducted an assessment, and we found that their revised privacy policy contravenes our law in a number of instances, and we have pointed that out. We've issued an enforcement notice. We have given them, I think, 60 days to fix what we think is broken with that privacy policy, and that's where we are. But I also have to say that at the time when we were engaging with them, they were prepared to accept that, yes, we can look at it, although they said they are doing that without prejudice. But they said, look, we are prepared to look into these things and see if we can fix. But I think it's a big one for us as well.
All right, let's leave it at that. We'll probably have the conversation after 30 days or longer, depending on what those terms are. Advocate Pansy Tlakula, appreciate you giving off your time. You've been connected to the National Pulse.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Right, so what do you make of some of the big issues we've raised so far? When I'm thinking about it, we're like 1.5 hours into a show and there's been so much. We've covered the issue of the Bella Bill. We've talked about Trump and Kamala Harris. We've talked about Steve Biko ahead of the 47th anniversary of his passing away. We've talked about Sibusiso Villani ahead of his climb up what is called the Matterhorn, and he leaves tomorrow. And as you've just heard that conversation with Advocate Pansy Tlakula. So did I forget about the Bella Bill, the issue of the DA and what may happen next? Let's get your thoughts. Gift in the Eastern Cape. Hello.
Sorry, good afternoon. Look, let me be quick. I think Steenhuisen must just familiarize himself with the powers vested on the president, including the constitution of this country, because when you read Section 79, subsection 1, and it states the president must either assent and sign a bill passed in terms of the chapter, or if the president has a reservation about the constitutionality of the bill, refer back to National Assembly for reconsideration. And also, according to the Concord case, if you recall, in the Doctors for Life International versus the Speaker of the Parliament, the President cannot refuse to sign the bill for political reasons. The only ground upon which the President can refuse to sign the bill is unconstitutional reservation. So in essence, this is not going to happen what the DA is dreaming about, especially Steenhuisen. The President is going to sign the bill on Friday.
Okay, so you're saying, well, okay, I got that. He'll sign it. Of course, they have another view in terms of what happens next. Thanks for that call, Gift. Let's stay in sort of Eastern Cape, East region, Port St. John's. MD on the line. Hi.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Thanks
good afternoon indeed, right. You want to talk about the flag issue?
To everyone. First one is the flag.
Yeah.
Simple question, do you do it? Do you do it? Because I see there are cons and pros on doing that.
What do you mean, do I do it? Are you saying,
do you show yourself to be South African? You?
Oh, you clearly have not been listening to the show. I love my country, and I just made the point that when I travel, I would have that flag, and I've got flags on my luggage anyway. I definitely do. I've had it for years.
Yeah. Then MK Party.
Yeah.
I think there is a need for us to have a better understanding of the MK Party. Unfortunately, now the way I listen to the radio, the way it is, the media reporting about MK, you would be negative. Then we really need to look at it in another way, not depend on the media reports. A recall to me of those MPs is not a dismissal.
I never said they were dismissed.
And it's not a send-off. So I think those guys should have waited. The problem with
so maybe some may say you're being negative to them now if they should have waited. You get my point. It's open to interpretation. I have to move on. It's time for the news. MD, thanks for that call. But I mean, here's the thing with the MK Party, as many have said. It doesn't mean if we ask a question, even of the DA, we like the DA or we don't like them. If we ask a question about the role of the president, if we say that the hospitals in South Africa, public hospitals, are in intensive care, does that mean we don't like the entire presidency and the ANC and the government of national unity and everybody else? No. Asking questions reflects a reality in our country. And the same with the MK Party. I don't see why we can't ask them, but still praise them for the fact that their performance at the election has been spectacular. You can't take it away from them. True. 4:30, here's the news headlines.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. And with the news headlines, good afternoon. Some political parties are increasing pressure on President Cyril Ramaphosa to reconsider his decision to sign the Basic Education Laws Amendment, or the Bella Bill, into law. Trade union federations COSATU, FEDUSA, SAFTU and independent unions have tabled a 12% wage increase demand for public sector workers as they look towards the 2025 financial year. And severe flooding in northeast Nigeria has displaced over 200,000 people in the Borno state capital. And those are your headlines. Greg has your full update at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Fourways has a crash on the off-ramp to Winnie Mandela Drive. The N1 northbound in Roodepoort has a crash near Main Reef Road Bridge. And the N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road exit. In KZN, the M4 has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions at Tongad Beach, so expect delays. The M7 has roadworks with traffic restrictions towards the Bel Air Road, Wakesley Road Junction, and the N2 northbound is queuing towards Umgeni Road. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. The N7 Jakes Harville Drive southbound queuing at Voortrekker Road. Batencroft Street outbound is slow moving towards the elevated freeway, and Kloofnek Road in Tamboerskloof has a truck crash reported at Camp Street. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
Very own Minister of Sport. To me, what's the big story now?
Well, we're talking about the real Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie, who says that they are in the process of appointing an acting CEO at Boxing South Africa to make sure that it's functioning well. Remember, the minister dissolved the Boxing South Africa board that was led by Sfiso Shongwe after just 3 months in the office, saying that legal costs in a court case against the National Professional Boxing Promoters Association was one of the reasons. Now, with no board at all, the sport has been in a state of paralysis, but McKenzie says that they are addressing the matter.
No. You see, when you fix this functionality, you can't say it's dysfunctional. It was dysfunctional. So they can't be more dysfunctional than what it was. We are in the process of fixing. Tomorrow we are appointing an acting CEO, which by law becomes the accounting authority.
Well, then moving on to sad news in rugby. South African 2019 World Cup winners Bungosi has been banned for 3 years by World Rugby after testing positive for an anabolic steroid. Now, his sample showed traces of an anabolic steroid that's used by bodybuilders. The 28-year-old, if you do remember, suffered mental health challenges while playing for the Bulls and disappeared for several weeks back in 2022, triggering a police search before being found at home by a relative, rather. And he was actually back playing for the Bulls. However, it's quite sad to hear that now he's banned for 3 years. In football, Bafana coach Hugo Bruce says that the Lord was on their side with Talente Mbata's 2 stoppage time goals in a space of 4 days. Bruce also acknowledged that the challenge posed by the lack of competitive match fitness is the problem in the side, but praised his team for securing crucial points in both encounters.
So first of all, I said it before, or in the beginning of last week, the big trouble we have now for this moment is that our players didn't play competitive games. 80% of the players played only pre-season friendly games. And we saw that in both games. We are not sharp enough. This is not South Africa, what we knew from other games.
Then a group of students from Gauteng that are representing the Morgan Mosso Dojo did exceptionally well at the WGKF World Goju-Ryu Championship. And you're probably asking yourself, what is Stumi talking about? I'm talking about karate. And these championships were hosted in Austria last week. The team came back with more or less than 9 medals, and they arrived in South Africa yesterday. And I thought, let me just catch up with one of their students. He's 22 years old. He goes by the name of Connor Fergie, and he was competing in the senior division. Connor, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much.
Let's talk a bit more about your achievement and what you won at the championships in terms of the fields that you were competing in.
So I and my teammates from Morgan Moss Karate went to the World Goju Championships with winning team event, gold medal, world champions. Everyone loves that. And in terms of individual category, I came third, so I came bronze in my category.
Listen, a big congratulations on both those medals that you received. But from my understanding, the style of karate is the traditional Japanese Goju-ryu karate-do. How many styles of karate are there?
To my knowledge, there's about 7. So we have Goju-ryu, Shotokan, Shite-ryu, Wado-ryu, and Kyokushin.
So then my interest is how you chose which karate you wanted to play in, and how did you start playing karate?
So I initially started karate when I was young, so about 5. And I started off at the Shotokan Dojo in Greenside. So from there we moved, and I now reside in Florida, where the dojo I went to is called Goju-ryu Karate Center. And from there, it was just an amazing journey with my senseis, Sensei Morgan Moss, Sensei Shane Moss, and Sensei Shay Jagger.
Well, then in terms of making sure that you're fit, are you able to let us in on your fitness regime to be able to be fit enough to compete at a high level as the championships?
So how it works is training for karate is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and traditional is Tuesday and Thursday. In those time slots, I managed to get in some gym work, and I did CrossFit at 3Dimension Fitness.
And in terms of the standard of karate in South Africa compared to other countries, how are we looking in the country versus a country like Austria?
I would say South Africa, in terms of karate, is very strong. We're getting to a good level and making sure that we are staying on top of majority of the countries. I feel that South Africa has grown in terms of karate.
And in terms of South Africa growing, would you say financially you guys have the backing?
In terms of financial, we fund majority of our tours. So a little bit of help would always be nice, but everything is done via parents and our coaches making sure that we make it to the tournaments to get selected. It's a very good process, I think, if you have a good background.
Connor, thank you very much for joining me. Unfortunately, we had a limited time, but a big congratulations again on your win at the championships, and wishing you nothing but the best for your future.
Thank you so much.
Right. That is Connor Fergie, who is a part of the group of students that come from Gauteng specifically, and that were representing South Africa in Austria.
I can tell you one thing. I mean, I listened to the conversation. The single most important person that popularized karate or its different forms of kung fu and other names, for me, has got to be the one and only Bruce Lee.
Of course.
Absolutely. I can't think beyond that. There we are.
Absolutely. Well, I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers, for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to the markets with Makwe Masilela, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, you've got, the Super Group yearly results and then the local and global markets.
Yes, Ashraf, afternoon to you and to the listeners. Super Group managed to achieve new client wins, contract renewals, and increase in market share. Revenue up 4.6%, benefiting from the weakening rand and their strategic acquisitions in the UK and SA. And despite this revenue growth, EBITDA decreased by 1.4% and operating profit fell by 5.6%. And that was mainly due to weaker performance in the European supply chain businesses and the UK-based dealership businesses. And also profits as headline earnings per share fell by 25.9%. SA infrastructure challenges weighing on earnings. Share price is down 7%. And Ashraf, there's uncertainty of what is shaping to be a hotly contested U.S. presidential race. Yesterday's debate cast more doubts over who will win the race. Both candidates introduced greater uncertainty, and the markets really don't want stringent statements. They want clarity. The much-awaited core U.S. inflation was hotter than expected, resulting in market participants to lessen their expectations of a jump of Fed rate cut next Wednesday. Knee-jerk reaction was falling stocks and bond yields going up, with the dollar wavering. Back home, according to the bank's South Africa Economic Transaction Index, our improved inflation outlook amid mediocre economic growth will offer justification for the central bank to lower interest rates next Thursday. And a drop in U.S. crude inventories and concern about disruptions when it comes to U.S. output from Hurricane Francine countered concerns about weak global demand. As we're talking, Brent crude is flat at $69 a barrel, and gold retreating but still at elevated levels as a supersized U.S. rate cut seems unlikely. Gold is down 0.4% at $2,504. Platinum is down 0.3% at $937. September volatility persists with U.S. markets down. Europe is flat, and the local pulse is down 1%, tracked mainly by financials, which are down 2%, and the rand is flat 70.94 to the US dollar, 23.37 to the pound, and 90.75 to the euro.
Yeah. That was good. Thank you for that, and we will chat again tomorrow. Right, thanks for that, Makwe. Right, lots of comments. Lots of people want to talk about a range of issues. Bongani is saying something which I completely resonate with you. Bongani is saying, "Hi Ashraf, I had an experience in Europe wearing a Pirates T-shirt. One guy identified it and came, had a chat with me. He was from South Africa, or ZA. Well, Bongani, I tell you what, that's another thing. I mentioned flags. I can tell you that true. You wear particularly a football top, okay? So I think the Springbok rugby brand is very strong in rugby playing countries. Then football brands around the world. You wear a football brand, people rally around you. But I've said this before. Let me tell you this one again, and it may annoy some supporters. So for a warning about sensitive information here. I went to Egypt last year in November, to Cairo, and I got off the plane, I got to the airport, and the guy said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "South Africa." The only thing he said, Mamelodi Sundowns. So chief supporters and Pirates, you've got some serious catching up to do. It just reflects where we are. Let's see if we can get to some of the calls now. Mr. Tenga in Cape Town. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good indeed, and good to talk to you. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm good. I want to talk to 2 points about the bill which the president is supposed to sign.
No, give me 1 point. I mean, I don't have enough time. One solid point. Make the point. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah.
The 1 point that I would love to put forward now is that what DA is interested on is to divide this country, because their power lies in the divisions amongst the majority of this country. Thank you very much.
But how do you know that? But now you go on. How do you know that? Like you say, they say that the president would be being divisive. if they go ahead with the Bella bill. So can you see there's always different perspectives on this issue? Okay, that's your thoughts. Appreciate you calling in. Let's go to Umlazi now. So that's in KZN. Belani wants to talk to us. Hi.
Yes, Ashraf.
Yeah, good talking to you. Go ahead.
Yes. You know, with the flags, with the world conflicts now,
yeah,
I don't think it's the right idea. You know, there's this airline which has so many destinations, you know it. They used to have their attendants wear the flag on their uniform, and then they stopped. And then when I asked them why they stopped, they said it's because of the world conflicts. Imagine maybe you are Israeli and you're being served by a Palestinian on a plane. You see how that would be.
Well, that
so
would, yeah.
So with South Africa now, even after we've taken Israel to the ICJ, maybe with other people, if they see the South African flag, it can just spark whatever. So for me, I think, no, it's...
So you're saying no.
right.
Okay, you raise a very interesting point. But again, you may not have the flag. If somebody then asks you, like, where you from, are you going to say, nothing? No, I don't know. Well, I'll tell you one other thing around countries. There's no question about it that, you know, traveling reflects the heavy biases in terms of countries with economic clout. You try, and I've made the point, so I'll be traveling from Monday to the One Young World event in Montreal. You try and get a visa to Montreal or to Canada or to the UK as a South African or an African and see how much it costs you versus if you're one of the other countries from Europe, for example. And it takes such a long time. It's crazy. It's very difficult. But my stronger point is about the issue of the flags. I'm certainly for wearing something that depicts the country that I live in. I mean, I don't see why I wouldn't. Let's see if I can get another call. Maybe not now. We'll get to some of the voice notes that we've had and another comment about the flag. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. With regards to representing the branding of the South African flag, I personally have a flag tag on my bag, on my laptop bag. So whenever I travel around the world, for the couple of countries that I go to, I notice that there are a lot of South Africans around the world. Like literally people would tap me on the shoulder, "Hi, you from South Africa? I see your tag. Like, where you from? Like, and how long have you been here?" This is how, basically, I'm just going to say that most of the relationships that I have out of the country are through the flag tag that I have on my bag. Daniel here in Bryson.
Okay, well then you and I are 100% aligned. You've just proved my point, that it opens up doors. It also provides you the position where you can help others, because sometimes people don't know who to speak to in terms of language, and they know if you're South African you can speak at least English, so they'll come up to talk to you. So I've done that, and I will do that again when I travel on Monday. Absolutely, nice call indeed. Right, there are lots of comments about some of the big issues, including the DA, and then the Minister of Sport and Sport, Arts, Culture. Well, he's certainly probably top of brand, top of mind of all the ministers in the new dispensation.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and your team and SAFM listeners. You know, Ashraf, to me, Gayton McKenzie, you know, I think he's just excited to be a minister. That's what he always wanted to be. And I don't see him do.
I think we just lost that, but I got the sense of what you're saying. He's just excited. I'm not too sure what happened there. Here's another comment about the DA.
The DA is trying to fight this bill so hard because they know very well that they use the school governing body as a place to hide when they want to segregate the schools, so that the kids who are non-African speakers who are the majority of South Africa, can't actually get into the school because they use Afrikaans as a medium of instruction. So this whole thing, if that goes away, that means our kids will be able to go into other schools which were previously Afrikaans schools.
Well, I hear you. So one is that position, and it may well be the case. The second part of it is the actual threat to the existence of the government of national unity. And here's another one on Afrikaans.
Hey, Ashraf, as a person who stays in an area that has got an Afrikaans school, that bill is trying to solve that issue, that some of us English speakers are not pushed out to schools that are far away because governing bodies have decided that the school is going to be an Afrikaans school. The department needs to decide on the language. The DA does not want to offend its Afrikaans voters that are going to run away back to the Freedom Front Plus. That is the main issue here. And yes, the ANC needs to see this for what it is to preserve Afrikaans school, which is out of order, actually. Thanks, Sibongi here.
Okay, thanks for that, Sibongi. Well, there you are. Interesting one again, But do you think, for example, I mean, you could be, for example, Xhosa speaking, and if government decides that's going to be a Zulu-speaking school, Afrikaans, would you take offense to that? Should it not? I mean, is there a case that it has to be localized, that the local community makes the call? I'm not talking about the DA. I'm just talking about the local community determines the language of choice. Tell me what you think.
Liverpool FC have collected maximum points in their opening 3 matches of the 2024-2025 season. They want more victories.
Look at the white shirts coming here. Salah! Salah scores at Old Trafford again.
Meanwhile, Forest want to dictate terms at Anfield.
High towards the back post. Wood with a free header. Yes! 1-0 Forest. Chris Wood scores.
This is the Premier League. Catch the spectacular clash between Liverpool FC and Nottingham Forest on Saturday, 14 September at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. The students, UJ ladies, want to ensure that they secure 3 points to stay close to the heels of second-place UWC ladies. However, Copperbelt ladies plan to fasten their belts tight and escape from the bottom half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch them Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. UJ Ladies FC versus Copperbelt Ladies FC on Saturday, 14 September at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Talking more comments about the flag and whether you travel with an indicator, whether it's just a small little tag on your luggage or a badge or a lapel pin, something that indicates you are from South Africa, particularly if you are on holiday or if you're attending conferences. I certainly do, more so with conferences. Tell me what you think. We'll be chatting to Professor Susan Boyson coming up next, after 5 o'clock, getting her take on the DA position and the presidency regarding the Bella Bill and the GNU and what that means. But let's talk marketing and branding now. My guest is Nathan Reddy, the founder of Grid Worldwide. Nathan, good chatting to you. You are certainly connected to the National Pulse.
Hi, Ashraf.
It's been a long, long while. So let's get talking about an interesting concept that certainly got me thinking about something that you guys do at Grid Worldwide. What is investment creative?
Well, the thing about in a creative, creatives in this world, we go, it's like, always feels like a one-off, right? So when you think about good, considered, creative where strategically you pitch up saying the same thing over a period of time and you give your consumers a specific experience, it's called a compound way of how great creative over a period of time adds value.
Okay, right. So your company has done a lot, and I understand there's some brands that you can talk about in terms of how what you've done that differentiates you from what other brands have done to great effect. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. So, FNB, for the second year running now, it's the most valuable South African brand, right? And when you talk about what is value in terms of the brand space, it's how the consumers perceive what they believe is brand value. And the touch points in terms of how you create a great brand is not just about its advertising. It's about the kind of products and services that you create that really add value to the end user. And the customer's got to have a specific experience when it's dealing with you. And how those experiences pitch up are all basically understanding that world of making sure that brand value in terms of your engagement is always top of mind.
I suppose it's a big challenge. I mean, you are in a, brands are in a very competitive industry, but then brand agencies like yourselves are also in a very competitive industry to ensure that you are relevant and that what you deliver on behalf of your clients can land, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, you're right. It is a very competitive landscape, firstly from the so-called financial services and what we do. But I think where we need to add value to our clients' businesses is, again, that total value chain in terms of understanding the creative, understanding the stretch of how you communicate what to do, and then something we call the last mile. What is that conversion you're doing for your clients?
So, perhaps you've given the F&B example. Are there others? I think there's the Spur example that you may want to share too.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Spur, I think, in South Africa's landscape is a very loved brand, the family brand. And, we went on a massive exercise of refreshing that brand. And you can imagine the debate that was on about the Indian and the cultural nuances of having it or not having it and changing it or not changing it. And we went on quite a brave journey with them in terms of retaining the Indian but giving it a very kind of refreshed look to it. But again, it's been very well received. It wasn't just about the identity and how it pitches up. It was more about how the family experience in those restaurants took place. And it's been doing exceptionally well for them.
So, whether it's F&B, the core product would be financial services. Whether it's a Spur, it's actually the food that you chow there, right? That's it. But having said that, how important is the overall brand experience for a brand user to want to then use that brand a lot more? And I'm looking at F&B from financial services to maybe their connection with SA Rugby or the Springboks for a long period, and then Spur. So what I'm saying, when you talk about brand changes internally in terms of the experience, how do you measure that actually works as opposed to ultimately they're only coming for the food at the end of the day? Who cares about the sounds? Who cares about the American-Indian connection and that sort of thing?
At the end of the day, people have a deep love for certain things, right? And if you don't do something right, you're gonna call you out on it. So a great brand, it's not about parity in terms of, yes, hygiene factors, all of them got to be a certain level. But it's that extra bit that these brands do that make people keep on coming back, right? And that is that kind of journey that you need to be on in terms of what is a great brand. They're always there for you. So something like F&B, the reason why they have such a beautiful love for the Springboks is that they understand what South Africa is about. So to me, being involved in the development of the Springboks and sponsoring the Springboks is part of that brand journey. So, the things in people's minds mostly is the emotion I have towards that brand. Why I would choose that brand over that brand, it's because subconsciously that brand has done things that I really like.
Now, I have to tell you from a personal experience, and I've certainly got affiliations with many, business, financial, banking institutes. But for me, the F&B synergy with Springboks, for me, only applies to when the Boks win the World Cup, and I know they're going to meet at Bank City in Joburg. I'm just making the point about the fact that I can remember that. Maybe just says something for what you're just telling me, right? But perhaps in the minute we have remaining, we're talking about big brands, but also one of the things that we want to do on the show is to encourage, small business startups to understand business and marketing strategy, right? So share with us maybe one good marketing strategy that a small startup business must adopt.
Yeah, I think, any brand, no matter big or small, has got to have a sense of what they stand for, right? And I'll challenge everyone to maybe find one word that you want your brand to adopt and own. Like F&B owns health. And they keep on saying it. It's not like they go out of fashion. And a word like that sticks because it's got a human insight to it. So if you're a brand builder out there, no matter how small you are, stand for something and keep on saying it.
It's a good point, and therefore people remember not just the brand, but they also remember the people by calling them by that name because that brand is so synonymous. So what is it? How can we help you? That's why I remember it. Nathan, great chatting to you. Thanks for your time. Feel free to tweet out some of the thoughts that you've got. Tag SAFM Radio and certainly tag me using that hashtag, The National Pulse. We'd gladly share that too. Nathan Reddy, the founder of Grid Worldwide. There we are. Big thing. One thing as a startup business, think about what you stand for and make sure that whatever it is that you stand for is amplified so people know exactly what it is you do. Don't let them be ambiguous about it because you, as your company, are ambiguous as well. Okay, there's some thinking for you to consider. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. In this news update, pressure on Ramaphosa over the Bella Bill and thousands displaced by Nigerian floods. Good day to you. Some political parties are increasing pressure on President Cyril Ramaphosa to reconsider his decision to sign the Basic Education Laws Amendment or Bella Bill into law on Friday. The ACDP is the latest against the legislation, which has been touted as aimed at strengthening governance within the country's education sector. It says the bill must be sent back to the National Assembly for some amendments. Earlier, the DA said its leader, John Steenhuisen, was seeking an urgent meeting with the president before the Friday signing ceremony in Pretoria. The party denies threatening to pull out of the Government of National Unity, but says if the president continues to ignore its objections, he will be endangering the future of the GNU. The DA's Willie Okamp.
The DA argues that this move violates the Government of National Unity's statement of intent, as the bill threatens constitutional rights, particularly mother tongue education. The DA urges the president to send this bill back to the National Assembly for amendments, but he seems determined to proceed. We view this as a serious threat to the unity government, and the Democratic Alliance's leader, John Steenhuisen, will urgently meet with the president to demand changes and prevent further unilateral actions by the ANC.
Trade union federations COSATU, FEDUSA, SAFTU and independent unions have tabled a 12% wage hike demand for public sector workers as they look towards the 2025 financial year. They've formed a unit through the Labour Caucus on a consolidated approach to the wage talks of the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council. Their demands include housing, medical aid and danger allowance. The Public Servants Association's Claude Nyker.
We've consolidated all our demands, tabled a 12% salary increase with effect from 1st of April next year. Coupled with that, we've asked for an increase in the medical aid, increase in the housing allowance to 2,500 Rand. We've asked for the danger allowance and other allowances in the public sector to be revised. We've also indicated that all contract workers and those that are employed on casual basis should be insourced quick, and I can confirm that the employer has come back and is indicated that unfortunately these demands are unaffordable and they cannot consider these demands.
A man accused of killing two of his family members with an axe outside Polokwane in Limpopo has abandoned his bail application in the local magistrates' court. Taylor Pakhlani allegedly hacked his 78-year-old mother and 60-year-old sister-in-law to death with an axe at their home. He also tried to attack a female neighbor, but she managed to escape with injuries. He's facing 2 counts of murder and attempted murder. The motive behind the incident is currently under investigation. Magistrate Ngako Machekecheke postponed the matter to December.
The suspect attacked a 23-year-old woman at a residence with a sharp object. She escaped and sought community assistance. The suspect then ran to his place of residence and killed his 78-year-old mother as well as a 60-year-old sister-in-law with the same object. The injured woman was taken to the hospital for medical treatment.
That was our reporter, Koketso Mutar, reporting there. An exhibition of images of the Jagersfontein disasters opened to members of the public at the University of the Free State in Bloemfontein. The story of how the residents lost their livelihoods can be seen through the now permanent exhibition at the university. Co-curator of the exhibition is Lanasa Mahapang.
The artworks that you see here, or these pictures that you see here, are all 100% owned by the community of Jagersfontein, the local community of Jagersfontein. We just went through simply going, through the community asking for pictures. Anybody who has pictures, through word of mouth, they've been telling, tell a friend that there are people around here who want to gather pictures so that we can have an exhibition on the 9th of September. So that's just how we went about it. So all of these pictures that you see here, they 100% belong to the residents, of Jagersfontein.
Severe flooding in northeastern Nigeria has displaced over 200,000 people in Borno's state capital. The UN says an unconfirmed number of people have died after floodwaters from an overflowing dam destroyed homes in Maduguri. The top story, some political parties are increasing their pressure on the president to reconsider his decision to sign the Bella Law into law on Friday. That's SABC News. I'm Greg Khoes.
Sports this hour, Moses Mabhida to host MTN 8 final, and Minister Gayton McKenzie gives an update on Boxing SA acting CEO. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Alexandra has a crash near London Road. The N1 northbound in Roodepoort has a crash near Main Reef Road Bridge. The M1 southbound is queuing through Crown interchange towards Boysons. Santon Drive westbound is slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. In Pretoria, the N1 southbound has a crash at the R21 highway, and SKM Patleni Drive northbound has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the N2 northbound is queuing towards Umgeni Road. The N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle after Umgeni Road, and the N2 southbound has a crash after Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Another day, another set of challenges. In a world driven by shifting demands, environment, social and governance, what guides your decision-making? We need a new generation of ethical leaders who have their eye on the bigger picture, who are not daunted by change, but inspired by it. Let Wits Business School guide your leadership journey. With our postgraduate programs, you can play a role in Africa's sustainable future. Apply today and make 2025 your year of impact. Visit wbs.ac.za for more.
The breakers of the barriers have demonstrated that bravery, courage, and excellence often exceed any boundaries and limits. This exhilarating moment is the 19th edition to celebrate and honor the tangible impact of women in sport. Experience the Momentum G Sport Awards 2024 on Thursday, 12 September at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, you know, we every day around 10 to 6, we end the show with a feature called Winning, because we focus on people who are winners at what they do. And we chat to Matthew Pearce, or Matt Pearce today. He's a rugby commentator, well known for just rugby, mainly Springbok rugby commentary. So we'll talk to him about his journey. 150 times he's been broadcasting international rugby, and that is just something else. Also like the fact that people listen from around the country. It's one of the great privileges of hosting the National Pulse. So when I ask the question, what for you moves the National Pulse, the responses come from across the country, across the nation, and very often from across the world as well, when people are connected via streaming audio. So yes, some of them. Zach saying we are together. Mapopa saying I'm a gardener with little academic knowledge, listening from George. Brian saying listening from Pretoria. Becky Temba saying, well, he's talking about Trump, so he's saying Trump must win the election. And then Dabishi saying, I wish the DA and the ANC together with other parties are part of GNU, not to go different ways concerning their issue of the Bella Bill. Bax Makodi saying, together on this train, Mr. Ashraf Garda, based in Kuruman. And then Punky just says there, Punky salute, hashtag the National Pulse. Certainly got that there. Interesting, there's further comments on, and many people commenting about the issues of the Bella Bill. Let's therefore continue talking about it. Now, earlier on, we chatted to the DA spokesperson on the issue, and that's Willie Oukamp, right? And he gave his thoughts on a range of opinions in terms of where they stand. So what we'll do now is we're going to chat to Professor Susan Boyson, who's talking to us, who's actually on the line right away. Susan, I appreciate your time. Good to connect with you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, it's been a while, so I'm glad to be talking on a very significant issue. Absolutely right. So let's do this. We're gonna play some of the sound that we've had from that previous conversation because we think that's that important. So firstly, the spokesperson for the DA commented about their position and why they oppose the Bella Bill as it stands now.
Firstly, it is the principle that when the Government of National Unity was formed, we made it very clear from the DA side that we are objecting to the Bella Bill in its current form, and I will get to that now. So what we are having here is, firstly, it's not a warning from the DA. It is a request from the DA for the President to follow the spirit and the letter of the agreement that was signed that formed this Government of National Unity. The President, in clause 19.3, it was made clear that there must be sufficient consensus on a number of critical issues. And it is clear that in this instance there is not sufficient consensus. We as the DA believe that the decision regarding schools must be made by the schools in consultation then with the department. But it must be in consultation and not after consultation. It is very important to distinguish between in consultation and after consultation. If it is after consultation, it means that the Department of Education in the various provinces can make a decision after they consulted with the different school governing bodies.
Okay, that's one point. Then I asked him, at its very core, what, besides the procedures, what's their big issue, their point of differentiation regarding the Bella Bill?
It is a given. Afrikaans is very important. I'm an Afrikaans-speaking person, and I would like my children to get educated in Afrikaans. But if I was a Zulu-speaking person or a Xhosa-speaking person, I would have felt exactly the same. Okay. It is not about protecting the rights of Afrikaans as a language. It's about protecting the rights of mother tongue education. We see that we've got 80% of pupils in grade 4 that's not able to read and write for meaning. So if you can't read for meaning, one of the biggest reasons that came out is that it is due to a lack of mother tongue education, and that is what needs to be protected.
And then he made the point that they're certainly not saying that they are withdrawing from the GNU if the president does not agree with their request, which is to not sign the Bella Bill. However, they believe that there must be some dispute mechanism in place.
We said from the beginning that we are opposed to this, and we also said from the beginning that there must be a dispute resolution mechanism in place when parties in the GNU does not agree on what is going to happen. We cannot have it that it is only the president with a specific minister and they drive it in their department. If there is a dispute like this one, there should be that dispute resolution mechanism that can proactively start to iron out the problems that there might be.
Okay.
To give you an idea here, Ashraf, the changes that we require that must be made to this bill, should the president send it back to the National Assembly. Mm-hmm. It's a few changes that can be made to this bill. The main essence of the bill when it comes to school nutrition and to grade R, etc., we are fine with that. So it's a few changes that can be made, and a lot of people, parties in the Government of National Unity, as well as public entities or organizations out there, will be satisfied if these small changes can be made.
And I understand that's the voice of the DA's spokesperson, right? Willie Okamp. Now I understand the DA themselves have tweeted saying tomorrow, 12:30, the DA leader John Steenhuisen will deliver a special address, and it's called a special address, at the Cape Town Press Club, reflecting on the role of the DA in the Government of National Unity and South Africa's future. I'm just trying to pick out the words of that. Why would it be called a special address, as opposed to simply saying, reflecting on, X amount of days or months of the GNU, and in any way is it in any way linked to the conversation we're having now? So let's bring in then Prof. Susan Booysen. So I appreciate your time. I mean, you've been clearly listening to some of those sound bites. That's not all. He said a lot more, and people should listen to the podcast too. But what do you make of this? What's all the fuss here?
Actually, indeed, we really see playing out the drama of the new order, political order in South Africa, the so-called Government of National Unity. And there's some time warp issues. In the first place, throughout many of your comments in the course of this afternoon's phoning, we heard about sentiments, true sentiments, valid sentiments, suspicions of whether this is a veil for the old order, apartheid, separatism, using language and language in school, mother tongue language, as a veil for those old values. And how this now, at this moment, interfaces with a new expectations, new ways of behavior, new ways of finding consensus that we see in this Government of National Unity dispensation. And there are serious time warp issues that exacerbate the tensions here. And by time warp issues, I mean the bill was adopted by Parliament on 17 May. That means barely a week and a bit before the election. And I'm surprised that hasn't been a committee or some grouping within the Government of National Unity dispensation that would have identified issues that could create conflict, could create tensions, like the Bela Bill, on which the parties and the DA, indeed, in the negotiations, they did express their concern about the bill. The ANC has known all along that these problems from the DA side do exist. So I'm surprised that some committee had not proactively stepped in the interest of the GNU and identified these issues and said, let's put them on hold, just put them on hold or expedite them for resolution so that we do not face this kind of situation. The statement of intent really does cater for this, and the statement of intent indeed also specifies that there should be a dispute resolution body. If this exists, it has not quite been publicized yet. But this would have been wonderful work for a dispute resolution committee to show that it is kind of the principal players have come to terms with a new order and that new ways of doing are actually required.
So what do you make? I mean, I understand, the DA's ideological position with regard to language. That's another conversation. But in terms of tactically, you did say already that you don't know why they've left it this late, which is rather surprising, right? What do you make, however, of this statement? And this comes from John Steenhuisen's official statement saying, if the president continues to ride roughshod over these objections, he is endangering the future of the Government of National Unity and destroying the good faith on which it was based. And just to add on to that, right, the spokesperson for the DA himself said that if anybody is causing, destabilizing the GNU, it's actually not the DA, but it's the ANC, or in this case, it's the president. What do you make of that position and what may happen next?
In some ways, it is really a call for help from the DA, because I realize the ANC has been loading the Government of National Unity, the so-called one, and that the DA is not necessary really provided ANC can also get the cooperation, let's say, of Action SA, and given developments at local levels, that doesn't seem impossible, even if Action SA is not part of the Government of National Unity. So the ANC is basically signaling, it seems, through these developments here and through the presidency's announcement of the signing on no less than Friday the 13th, that signaling that they do not need the ANC. The DA. And perhaps this is a way for the ANC to signal to this wider ANC community, which has also been objecting to the ANC being part of a coalition government with the DA, signaling to the ANCs, signaling to that broader community that we are not that dependent. We are not that we don't owe anything to the DA.
It's a good point. I mean, they need to play. They need to play hard. They need to be seen to be playing some hard ball here, which they haven't been seen to be doing a long time. Okay, so just one last answer from yourself. So, if you were the DA now and the president does not sign the bill, what would you advise the DA? If you could advise them, and if you were the president and you've received this request from the DA to say, please hold on, refer the bill back to the government, what would you advise your president?
Well, yes, first, maybe the easier one is to advise the president. I would say just put this on hold. If Mr. President, you take this government of national unity seriously and want the DA to remain a partner party to this, then put it on hold, postpone by a few days, and signing or take it to Parliament on an urgent basis and get new buy-in. And given that this is a new configuration of party political power that we have now compared with pre-election, I would say just put it on hold if you take this seriously.
All right. And quickly, DA, and you've got like just 10 seconds to answer this one. If the president refuses, is that grounds to leave the GNU for the DA point of view? Yes, no?
The DA has painted itself into a bit of a corner here because a big part of its agenda is to, quote-unquote, protect South Africa from an ANC alliance.
Point made. That's where we got it. Thank you so much for your time. Lots to consider there from Professor Susan Boyson.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3. The future of education is here. Impact offers two paths to the future. Design your own homeschooling journey with Impact Homeschooling, or let our experienced teachers guide the way with the Impact Online School. Get quality, future-forward education. Visit www.impact.co.za today to register for 2025.
EFC is live this Thursday. The bantamweight title is on the line, live from the World Sports Betting Arena, as the top-ranked divisional contenders and perennial fan favorites Faiz Jacobs and Vince Bembe go to war.
Oh, big right for Faiz Jacobs. The finish is over. What a win.
When he smells blood, he hunts mercilessly for the finish.
EFC is live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
I tell you what's one thing, and you can't deny this, and I accept the fact that the majority of South Africans historically have supported the ANC. That's a fact, right? You also can't deny there's been a drop-off in numbers from 57% in the previous election to 40%. So this comment from Malusi Gigaba should get you thinking. Now, he was speaking at the ANC Youth League's 80th anniversary reflections dinner with former ANC Youth League leaders. And this is what he said. He said, the ANC says one of the ANC's biggest problems is that money has become the main currency in the party, as members now engage on how much money you give them.
When relations among comrades have become transactional and commodified, we now engage on the basis of how much money you give me, not on the strength of your ideas, your organizational experience, and your ability to perform the tasks of the movement. But the commodification of the ANC, of relations among comrades, has allowed capitalist values to creep into the movement, where decisions have become transactional, be it policy or the buying of membership, or election into leadership. The problem with that is that we've allowed a Trojan horse, because the opponents, the enemies of the ANC, had always wanted to defeat the ANC, and they understood that they couldn't do so from outside. So the best way is to creep inside the ANC, and once inside, begin to destroy the wall. Once they've breached the walls of Troy, begin to destroy Troy, the ANC.
So
you divide comrades. You cause splinter groups. You dissipate the support of the ANC and the overwhelming power of a united black majority. You dissipate that united power and therefore ensure that as black people we are unable to speak as one along our own interests, because we have to hold the view that the National Democratic Revolution has not been achieved.
Okay, he said so many things that you can dissect it. That's an essay in its own right, okay? But here's the point about them sort of driving towards capitalism that he spoke about. He spoke about the Trojan horse, the famous story of Troy, right? And suggesting that the ANC has been infiltrated and therefore they are what they are. Now, I don't know. Maybe we're giving others too much credit to allow the ANC to be infiltrated, because for many people, these are people who are within the ANC themselves, right? Infiltration suggests people from the outside. I don't know. But the bottom line, I think his points, we've not heard about it for the first time, but the fact that it's been amplified again post-May 29 does suggest that the ANC at this point in time, in terms of their strategic thinking going forward as a political party, are uncertain in terms of actual direction they need to be taking. Okay, I'll check up. We're going to get to some of the callers first. Sintu in Midrand, hi. Sintu, go ahead. Hello. No. Okay, Sintu, do I have you there? Go ahead, Sintu.
Yes. Now, just remind, the strength of this GN is going to be tested on Friday, because the ANC has brought out of their own selfishness. Because they going to bed with the DA, it was not going to happen, because we know the interest of the majority people of this country. But you just want to see what the president is going to say on Friday. But I can assure you, Ashraf, that the president is not going to go ahead, because they want to protect their own.
Okay, you're saying what Prof. Susan Boyson is saying, like, just hold it for a few days, go back, and that's what the DA are saying, come back to us, let's have a discussion, let's amend some aspects, and it will be good to go. Thank you for that call, Sintu. Lionel in Limpopo, go ahead. Lionel, hello? Lionel, you there? No? Lionel's not there. Here's another one, and it seems like people want to comment about traveling abroad.
Ashraf, good afternoon. To add to what you have said, the first thing and the basics is for anyone who is traveling abroad. The first thing to do is to look for the High Commission of South Africa outside, or the embassy. That is the first thing that a person needs to do abroad. Thank you.
But why would that be the first thing? I mean, for many people on tourists, they only go there if there's a problem. They just need to know there's a high commissioner or an embassy that exists. They don't actually have to visit. I've never been to one of them. Lionel in Limpopo, hello.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ashraf. I just want to make a quick comment on what Malusi Gigaba has just said.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that people that have contributed to the destruction of the ANC, the only weapon in the people's hands to develop themselves, are now coming up to become people that point fingers and say some people are doing this. They are the ones that have done that, you know. And it's unfortunate that after destroying the ANC, you want to blame other people. You don't even blame yourself for having been involved in the state capture, for having owned more than 200 suits that you could not even explain why you had them, how you financed your lifestyle, and so on and so forth. I think it's very sad. It's very sad that people that destroy come up and become and come forward as victim people that have been victimized or observed the distraction by others.
Well, I take your point, and that's why I'm saying that, in fact, to blame the problems of the ANC now on the Trojan horse of infiltration, I think is being very simplistic. There are huge problems within the ANC, starting from the top right down to the very, very bottom. Let's get the news headlines. It's 5:30. Here's Greg.
Look at the headlines of this hour. 10 people, including the former Human Settlements MMC in Cape Town, Malusi Boy, have appeared in court on a range of charges. Some political parties are increasing pressure on President Ramaphosa to reconsider his decision to sign the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill into law on Friday. And a workers' strike at Kenya's main airport has caused flight cancellations and delays. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Lindbro Park has a crash before Marlborough Drive. The N12 eastbound in Boksburg has a crash near Rondebolt Road exit. The N12 R24 westbound in Bedford View is queuing on both routes towards Gilulis interchange. The N1 southbound has a crash before the N17 Soweto exit. All lanes are open. And the N1 southbound in Pretoria has a crash reported at the R21 highway. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle after Mgeni Road. The N2 southbound, an earlier crash reported after Spaghetti Junction, has been cleared. Chris Hani Road westbound is slow moving at the N2 highway, and the R102 southbound is slow moving at Old North Coast Road. In Cape Town, Marine Drive northbound in Sunset Beach is queuing towards Ocean Way. The M7 Jakes Haville Drive southbound in Mitchell's Plain, slow moving towards the R300 highway. Jan Smuts Drive southbound in Athlone is slow moving towards Klipfontein Road, and Strand Road eastbound in Belleville is queuing towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, let's talk football. Yesterday, this time, we were talking about that last gasp goal for Bafana in successive matches. So, a team is played by 11 players, but sometimes some players are but more important than all 11. Tell me about that, to me.
Absolutely. Well, let's start off with the MTN 8 final. That highly anticipated match between Orlando Pirates and Stellenbosch FC is going to take place on the 5th of October at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban. Now, in terms of the hosting rights for the 2024-25 MTN 8 final, it attracted a number of interests with proposals submitted from various provinces, including Gauteng, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, KZN and Mpumalanga, and KZN winning that bid yet again. The official home and away draw for the final will be conducted on Monday. Meanwhile, still staying with football, Bafana head coach Hugo Bruce says that the Lord was definitely on their side with Talente Mbata's 2 stoppage time goals in a space of 4 days. However, he also acknowledged that the challenge posed by the lack of competitive match fitness is the problem in the side, but praised his side for securing crucial points in both encounters.
So first of all, I said it before, or in the beginning of last week, the big trouble we have now for this moment is that our players didn't play competitive games. 80% of the players played only pre-season friendly games. And we saw that in both games. We are not sharp enough. This is not South Africa, what we knew from other games.
Still staying with football, elsewhere, Arsenal captain Martin Odegaard could face several weeks on the sidelines. This is after injuring his right ankle during Norway's Nations League victory against Austria. Odegaard hobbled off the pitch and was seen using crutches as he boarded a plane back to London, where he underwent further scans to reveal the extent of the injury. Arsenal, remember, they face North London rivals Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League on Sunday, when they also will be without midfielder Declan Rice, who is suspended. Meanwhile, in boxing, Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture Gayton McKenzie says that they are in the process of appointing an acting CEO at Boxing South Africa to ensure its functionality. McKenzie recently dissolved the Boxing South Africa board that was led by Sfiso Shongwe, and with no board and no CEO or accounting authority, the sport has been in a state of paralysis. But McKenzie says that they are addressing the matter.
No. You see, when you fix this functionality, you can't say it's dysfunctional. It was dysfunctional. So they can't be more dysfunctional than what it was. We are in the process of fixing. Tomorrow we are appointing an acting CEO, which by law becomes the accounting authority.
In terms of rugby, and you were hoping to go and buy tickets for that clash between the Springboks and Argentina at Mbombela Stadium. Well, some bad news for you, because that particular game is sold out, and SA Rugby is warning everyone against the online website claiming to have tickets for sale for that match, or that last match that is happening in South Africa. The Castle Lager Rugby Championship trophy will be presented at the match to either the Springboks or the Pumas, and they are the only teams in the competition with a chance of winning it. Anything's off with golf. Corey Connors will join a rare club of Canadian professionals to have competed in the Nedbank Golf Challenge when he tees up in Africa's major at Sun City from the 5th to the 8th of December, with tickets and an exciting new luxury public hospitality option available to buy. Now, Connors has confirmed his place in the field for this DP World Tour event played in honor of Gary Player, which forms part of the 2025 race to Dubai in partnership with Nedbank and Sun International. And he heads to Sun City as a two-time winner on the PGA Tour. That's it. It is a wrap from my side.
So let's start about what I said earlier on. In a case like today, the phrase yesterday's hero suggests a has-been, but yesterday's hero is not a has-been. Regarding the guy was yesterday's hero yesterday.
Where? In terms
the
of
Bafana game.
The Bafana game?
Yeah.
Absolutely. He is a hero of note. Saving Bafana at the last minute, as per usual. He's a gift.
How much do you know about him? Because obviously now it's a case of we need to keep an eye on this player.
Absolutely. He definitely is one player to look out for. He plays for Orlando Pirates. Him alongside Apollos, who scored a brace in the game yesterday. I feel like they two players to look out for. Apollos is 23, and we actually have an update with regards to Chiefs wanting to buy him. They've just put 10 million rand on the table.
Okay, maybe the price will go up. You score 2 goals, the price goes up. I mean, really. We'll talk. That's the business of sport, clearly, right? Okay, that's it.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
by the way, we were chatting to Matthew Pearce at 10 to 6. Remember, he has commentated on 150 Springbok Test matches. So we talk to winners. We will talk to him. 10
Absolutely.
to 6.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's talk about the markets now, as always, with Jimmy Moya from the SAFM market update. Jimmy, good chatting to you. Let's talk about what's the big issue that are moving the markets today.
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to our listeners. Certainly a lot to consider today. We've got US CPI data out around US market open, and the markets have been very unsettled since that data print came out, even though that print came in very in line with expectations. So we're going to be digging into that a little later on with David Shapiro of Sasfin Wealth. We've also got a conversation with Norbert Sase, who is the group CEO at Growth Point. They are, of course, the largest real estate investment trust listed on the JSE, and they're going to give us an update on their results for the year ended June 2024. Interesting set of numbers from their perspective. Lots to look into there. The business not doing as well as we thought it might be at this point. So we're going to dig into those numbers and try and make sense of what's happening there. Then we've got a conversation with Anchor Capital around the sale of Anglo Platinum, or Amplats, by Anglo American. They started an accelerated book build for that business as part of that unbundling that they intend to do following that BHP deal that didn't go so well. Then we've got a conversation around South African bonds. They seem to be all the rage at the moment. There seems to be a lot of interest and demand in South African bonds from global investors and local investors. We're going to look into that with Ford Asset Management and try and understand what's causing the demand and how we make sense of it. And then, because it's Wednesday, we've got our Executive Lounge feature on a Wednesday, and I'm going to be chatting to the Chief Risk Officer at Standard Bank South Africa, getting to know him a little bit better and what he enjoys doing in his downtime. Before we get to that, as I said, markets have not responded positively to the CPI data from the US. All markets are in the red. Asian markets are all in the red. European markets all in the red. US markets at the moment are also in the red. Nasdaq's down about 1%. S&P down about 1.3%. Our own markets had an equally bad day. Nothing to smile about here. The industrial sector was down about 0.4%, resources down 1.2%, financials down 1.6%. That was north of 2% at some stage during the day as well. The all share as a result was down 1%. The top 40 was down 1% as well. The rand was weaker against the US dollar, back at 17 rand 90, but it did gain some ground against the euro and the pound. It's at 23 rand 32 cents against the pound and 19.72 against the euro, and it's at about 11 rand 90 cents against the Australian dollar, not really moving there. If we look at some commodities prices, they have had a positive day, so there's something to smile about there. The price of Brent crude is still below $70 a barrel, $69.87 a barrel. Platinum pricing $960 odd an ounce there. Palladium is above $1,010 an ounce there. Gold price $2,513 odd dollars. And anyone that's watching cryptos, the Bitcoin price is currently at around $56,300. It's back above R1 million for a Bitcoin. We'll look into these and other stories a little later on. There's certainly a lot to unpack because of the prices, or rather because of the negative reaction from the markets. And I look forward to getting David Shapiro's thoughts on that.
Before I go, I mean, just as part of your daily masterclass, teach us something about what is an accelerated book build.
So that's what Anglo American is currently doing with their Amplatz business. They own about 78% of that business. They did an accelerated book build of around 5% of that equity. And in a nutshell, what that is offering shares for a limited period of time into the market with very little marketing, if any marketing at all. You typically have a couple of financial institutions that underwrite those shares when you offer them into the market, but the book build doesn't last very long. And what Anglo did today, they offered up around 5.3% of their stake in Amplatz at around 515 rand a share. They raised about 7.2 billion rand from that accelerated book build. So we're going to look into that and look into the mechanics of that a little later on with Anchor Capital and try and understand why a business like Anchor would do that at this particular time, whether it's to not spook the markets or whether it's to ensure that they can get an idea of what happens in the market. So typically a book build, just before I go, it's used as an indicator to see or to gauge the appetite within the market for that particular share at that particular price. So not a really clear indicator, but a good idea of where they could potentially be selling.
And perhaps that's why that phrase book value, which is another whole conversation completely. Great chatting to you, Jimmy. Enjoy your show coming up at 6, and I hope the audience follows this show to that show, right? Okay, let's. It is the National Pulse, so we reflect, by and large, the issues that moves the National Pulse every single day. Today, there's no question about it. It's the issue regarding the Bella Bill and the DA's position on that in terms of their request, threat to the president in terms of what they feel about it. But there are many other comments as well, right? So let's get to your thoughts. Borders in the Wild Coast. Hi.
Ashraf.
Yeah, how's it, man?
I'm fine, sir. Sorry, sir. Why does Malusi Kikaba want to be claiming to be amongst the poor black majority, whereas they pushed us to the deepest level of the food chain?
Well,
why?
Well, I'd love it if we could ask him that question ourselves directly. Like, there's something wrong.
Because we are.
With the leadership.
He is no longer with us now. That guy. He must just forget about us. They scavenge a lot from us, these people. You know. I don't know whether he's confusing his statement with the Guptas. No. He's not no longer. Yeah, he just wants to appear poor outside, and then he's very rich inside. They must just talk to the Guptas, not to us. They are no longer representing us.
Okay,
they're struggling, my man.
I got
and he's telling us about the enemy that is creeping within the ANC. Who is that enemy? Are they not the enemy of the ANC themselves? No. They mustn't play us, these guys, man. Thanks, Asha.
I tell you what, I don't have to say anything further. You've just said so much, and sometimes we just must reflect on the mood of a nation, and that's why we call the show the National Pulse. So yours is clearly, your pulse rate is boiling, and I can understand why. There's a lot of disillusionment amongst people about the leadership historically that is, well, seemingly, in inverted commas, let people down. Let's get to further WhatsApp voice notes on some of the issues that we've got. Here's another one on the DA. Let's just see if I can sort that out.
Ashraf, hi. Wow, this is Jesse K. Counter from Sina. Ashraf, we cannot live on threats from the DA nor al. If they can't get it their way, then they pose threat. No. They can just basically leave the government of national unity. We can't live on threats. We can give those ministerial posts to other political parties like Boy Action SA, etc. Let me rest my case for now. JCK, counter from Sina.
Right, let's get another call. Solomon in KZN. Hi, Solomon.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Yeah, good to connect with you. Go ahead, what's your point?
Yes, I do agree with Malusi Gigaba. Let alone what people know of him, his misjudgment and everything else. But to find luxury in depleting and further dividing the black vote is detrimental to the cause of bringing about prosperity and complete liberation amongst the Africans. Now we've got the GNU. It's just an arrangement of convenience because we can't stay without a government. But it cannot absolutely carry the aspirations of the people to a point where the black majority are no longer the face of poverty, underdevelopment, marginalization in the country, which is regarded as their own or where they are in majority. And South African scenario is the only case where you find the majority not commanding the economy, not playing any meaningful role in the economy and the like. And the more we divide ourselves, we've got only ourselves to blame. People can be happy to say we are no longer going to vote for the ANC and so on. But what is paramount, in as far as I'm concerned, is to amass and galvanize the black vote, let alone the banner.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, I'll leave it at that because I think you've raised important issues. I mean, you know, and that's a broad conversation that we have every single day. But in terms of whether he should be the one to alert people about, as he says, people have infiltrated, I mean, that certainly irked many people. Solomon, thanks for that. The wisdom of Solomon, let's say that much. There's another call. There's a couple of more comments.
This country,
yeah.
By saying.
Okay, thanks for that, Solomon. Right, let's get another comment on the Bella Bill.
Ashraf, I don't understand why the president is rushing to sign this Bela bill without taking into consideration other people's objections. What is he so scared of? It's the same way he rushed to sign the NHI bill just before elections. Why can't he send it back to Parliament so that there can be more input for a better bill? Because all the parties, all they want is a much better bill which serves everyone. Thanks, Farai.
All right, thanks for that, Farai. Well, does Farai have a point? Well, that's what the DA is saying, and that's clearly what Prof. Susan Boyson is suggesting, to say just go back, you know, do it even a few days later. It's not the end of the world, or is it? You know, what does this say about the relationship between the DA and the ANC? Victor in Makweng. Go ahead, Victor.
Ashraf, thank you for taking my call.
Pleasure. Go ahead, yeah.
You know, George Steenhuisen is playing games here. He wants his own way to sort things out, but he must just remember Friday the 13th. I hope he won't be coming with the meaning of what Friday the 13th is all about. Thank you.
All right. Who brings up Friday the 13th to discuss political issues? I don't know. I mean, here's a separate conversation. Is that such a big deal for you even now, Friday the 13th? Or what did Julius Caesar say? The Ides of March. To bring up all those things. Thanks for that, Victor. Right. More comment about, well, listen to this one.
You can also wear an EFF flag. By seeing that flag, they will know that you have liberated your mind. You have a liberated mind from that one of colonism or colonial laws. And then they cannot take any chances with you and belittle you because they know you know yourself, you know what you stand for, you know the truth, you speak truth to the power, and they are uncompromised.
Okay, EFF flag, we're talking about being abroad. How many people in other parts of the world would recognize the EFF flag? I mean, just a serious question to you. And in a similar vein about recognition.
The point, I really appreciate
Ashraf, I got to Morocco and they asked me where I was from,
and I said South Africa, and they said Morocco Swallows. So there we go.
Well, there you are. Of course, Morocco Swallows, yeah. That connection, I haven't heard that connection for a long time between Morocco and Morocco Swallows, which I think doesn't exist any longer, much to the annoyance of many, many people from Soweto in particular. But it's a nice one. And there's further comments about traveling abroad.
Ashraf, good afternoon. To add to what you have said, the first thing and the basics is for anyone who is traveling abroad. The first thing to do is to look for the High Commission of South Africa outside or the embassy. That is the first thing that a person needs to do abroad. Thank you.
Okay, in fact, we played that one again. My apology, but maybe for special emphasis. For special emphasis, we have a feature called Winning, and every day we pick up somebody or something that's winning in what they do. And Matthew Pearce is certainly doing that. He's done something I've never done in my life. 150 test matches that he's commentated on. Springbok test matches only. Can you quite believe it? So he's longer than any coach. We'll talk to him after this.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
Welcome to the team, Mandile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Hey, you know, Ntwana, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Niti shwe. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, Buying the Dream. Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3. And channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, let's talk commentary. Let's talk commentating in rugby, or the Springboks in particular. How narrow and focused can you be at that? Certainly Matthew Pearce has done that 150 times. So we've got him on the line. Matthew Pearce, good chatting to you. Like, what a winner, man. And I'm talking about you, not the Springboks.
Thanks, Ashraf. Yeah, it was an amazing weekend. I try not to do too much around the milestones, but they are special and they make you reflect on the journey that you've had and the amazing experiences. You know, I can remember at least something from every single one of those test matches because they're all so different. But to do the 150th one in my hometown and against the old foe, the All Blacks, was very, very special indeed.
Absolutely. Well, let's go back then to, as you've said, the milestone helps you reflect. Let's go back to day one. I mean, how did you get into the industry as a commentator?
Well, it's a very long story. I don't think we've got enough time, but suffice to say that my first radio commentary was done on my 22nd birthday. Maybe I shouldn't tell you what year that was for fear of giving away my age, but it was on, funnily enough, SAFM. And I did a lot of work on SAFM and Radio 2000. And at the time, I'd been doing, actually as a university student, some freelance work, but very much limited reporting, sort of 60, 90-second reports on sport during the course of the Saturday afternoon sports shows. And then just before my 22nd birthday, I was phoned up by the then head of sport at the SABC, who said, could you do 80 minutes of rugby commentary for us next Saturday? Because our regular commentator has a family wedding, I think it was. And of course, at that age, you think you can do anything. So I said, of course, I'll give it a go. And that got me going really in radio commentary, and that extended into the 1995 Rugby World Cup for both the SABC and the BBC, and carried on doing that while I was doing other forms of work. I was freelancing as a radio broadcaster, and then television came knocking in 2005, and since then it's been the most amazing journey.
And you've done a lot on SuperSport. I mean, clearly I know that. So I mean, the point of when you started, it's amazing how many people have these freakish ways of getting into a certain space, right? When did you know, however, that you arrived? So unlike the cocky 22-year-olds, I can do anything, there had to be a moment, whether it was the first game or the fifth game, to say, you know what, I can do this, man, and I'm good at it.
Well, Ashraf, I would throw the question back at you, because I think there is something about broadcasting, and I say this humbly, I don't say it in a presumptuous or arrogant way. I think there is a certain amount of broadcasting that you can learn and you can upskill yourself in. However, I do think the ingredients have to be there. They have to be ingrained somehow. And I could have accepted that game when I was 22 and made a complete hash of it, but it was actually that first game that made me think, hang on, maybe I should do this more often. It's nothing I studied to do or trained to do, and it's something I found I had a passion for. And the old adage that when you enjoy what you're doing, you hardly work a day in your life. I love what I do as a broadcaster, and it's not to say I don't do other things. Still to this day, I'm involved in other business interests, but I do think you find that something that is somehow inherent in who you are. And for me, broadcasting was that thing, and that's something I became more and more curious about, and I had to pursue in order to do myself justice.
And of course, on that 150th day, you had people like, you, Bladen, singing your praises, understandably so, and maybe many others too, right? But it does get me asking you this question. The fact is, you get commentators and you get commentators, but you would know what for you sets you apart. There's something that you do well that maybe others can't do. What would that be?
Oh, I wouldn't stretch that far. I think everybody has their own special qualities, and let's not forget, I've been extremely fortunate as part of this 150 test matches to have been present at back-to-back Rugby World Cup wins involving my country. There's only one other commentator who's had that privilege, and that was Grant Nisbet of New Zealand when New Zealand went back-to-back in 2011 and 2015. So to have been present in those moments, yes, you've still got to make it count. As you know, live radio, live television, you've got one shot, and whatever you say is out there and is forever embedded in folklore. So you better make sure you nail it at the time. But the circumstances of those two wins, and I've been telling people the whole week, especially 2019, given where the Springboks had come from as ranked 6 or 7 in the world a couple of years earlier, and record losses to New Zealand and Ireland, to then appoint our first black African Springbok captain in Siya Kolisi, for him to be there lifting the trophy after the journey that team had been on was incredibly special, and it was a massive turning point in our rugby. And then to go on and do it again in the most extraordinary circumstances in France last year, 3 consecutive 1-point wins. I mean,
absolutely.
You can't script it.
And I'm more of a rugby fan than an expert, clearly. And you tell yourself from the outside, like, that I would do for nothing, just to be present and to actually share the point of saying, South Africa are the world champions. Now, you had the privilege of saying just that. Listen to this.
Battered, bruised, and soundly beaten in Yokohama. There it South African rainbow. Here it is, the Springboks, champions of the world. Halala, Amaboka Boka, halala.
And I feel like we've just won the World Cup like 5 seconds ago. Listen, our time's up, but your time in your career is not up. Long may you continue doing what you do, because the role of the storyteller in identifying and doing champion spotting, I think, must be treasured, and that's why we talk to you today. So great chatting to you. You're a clear winner, Matthew Pearce.
Ashraf, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
There we are. You can always say made at SFM a long, long time ago. Let's get the news now. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg Hose.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Enjoy the rest of your evening. In this news update, former MMC appears in Cape Town court and pressure on Ramaphosa over the Bella Bill. Good evening. 10 people, including the former MMC for Human Settlements in Cape Town, Malusi Boy, have appeared in the local magistrates court on a